A little disclaimer before we get rolling here. You're about to hear some ads. They are all from local entities that want to support the baseball community. A lot of these guys have deep connections. We're players themselves, so if you see having a need for any one of these services, please go patronize these guys. Thank you. We are also brought to you by Jason Knoedler and the Bank of Springfield. They have a whole baseball team over there. I'm talking Jason Knoedler, Justin Knoedler, Timmy Ballin Wallen, Eric Weaver, Ryan Murphy, Greg Morantz, Murph Mathiet, Frank Stefano. I trust these guys. I respect these guys. Go see them for all your banking needs. Bank boldly with BOS. Thanks, guys. We appreciate you. We are also brought to you by 226 Sports, located at 3604 North Peoria Road, 217-670-1609. Springfield info at turn2outs.com. Multiple entities under this umbrella. Turn 2 training, which is team or individual instruction. Teams can come in and rent it out, or an individual can come in and get instruction from a top-of-the-line instructor. There's the Extreme Baseball and Softball Club, run by my buddy Kyle Welch. They have 9U all the way up to 17U teams, and Washco Strength and Speed, one of our other sponsors. We are officially backing this entity, and it's because of Kyle Welch. I love this guy. I love his passion. I love his knowledge. I love his vision. He's an absolute baseball dude. He knows hitting. Like I said, he has a vision to grow this into what Springfield deserves, and that's a top-of-the-line facility to help young ball players progress. I believe in Kyle as a person and as a leader of young men. Go see 226 Sports. We are also brought to you by 22 Fresh, a street and sport clothing line. They do baseball, they do hockey, they do custom jerseys, team wear. I've been rocking 22 Fresh since my 20s. Kip and I, the owner, go back a long time. We've always been friendly. He was a stud baseball player at the University of Evansville back in the day. I still rock 22 Fresh to this day. I believe in this company. Tons of pros you've seen rocking 22. Bryce Harper, Jason Worth, Pudge, Ian Desmond, Andrew McCutcheon, Mike Morris, Alex Manoa. Head on over to 22fresh.com. Use the code POSTGAMESPREAD for 20% off. It's okay to be loud and have fun and look fresh. If that makes you feel good, go for it. Thanks, 22 Fresh. We appreciate you guys. It brings me great pleasure to announce that we are now brought to you by Iron Palm Coffee, located in the parking lot at Soccer World, Lawrence and Durkin, right off Veterans Parkway. This is a long time coming. This is a good friend of mine, a very inspirational friend of mine. He's had this vision for years, finally coming to fruition. He fell in love with the coffee business many years ago because it connects people. It brings people together. Personally, I am forever in debt to this guy and his story. It's inspirational. He's been through a ton. I think he's a warrior and a champion of a person. So go see Iron Palm Coffee in the parking lot at Soccer World. Put some iron in your blood. We appreciate you, Iron Palm Coffee. We are also brought to you by Christ the King Men's Club. This was facilitated by my good buddy John Chisholm. We grew up playing baseball together, played on the Flame together, played high school ball. He played some college ball at Spoon River. This is a great organization. They put on tons of events. They raise money for the school. They put it back into the academics, into the sports. They do bourbon raffles, breakfast with Santa, mother-son dances, silent auctions. It's all positive. It's all good. We really appreciate you, Christ the King Men's Club. Thank you. Hey, guys, we are back. This is the post-game spread. I'm your host, Blake Helm. This is going to be part 3 with my man, J to the U, sitting next to me here. We're going to write the last chapter and close the book and go through, kind of the tail end of his career and kind of how that went and then how things have gone for him afterwards. We did kind of screw up a little bit some of our timeline. His 2005 and 2006 were kind of similar here, so we're going to leave it as his 2005 season, his second stint in the big leagues is kind of wrapped, and we're going into the offseason for his 6th year. JU, how are we doing, brother?
Good, man. Yeah, we messed up a little bit, but really the only difference is that 2005 I did start the year in AAA and ended up going to AA just to fill in. There was something logistically where it made sense after I went up to the big leagues just to fill in for a bereavement for Mike Matheny. They needed me to just fill in at AA for a series, and then they were going to get me back to AAA. So that's why those stats were reflected there. It was 2006, which we're getting ready to get into, is where I actually started the year in AA and kind of went on a little, mental mental breakdown because of that. You know, I had a good year in AAA the year before. I got called up to the big leagues again, even though I'm not getting to show what I can do in the big leagues on a regular basis. You know, I felt like there was no reason for me to go back to AA.
Yeah.
And so essentially I made the best of it. But, yeah, 2006 is, went to spring training, and I had one option left. I had already used up an option in 04, used up an option in 05, and I basically got one option left. For those people that are listening that don't realize, you only get 3 options. You can go up and down as many times to and from the big leagues on the same option in a year. But so this is going to be a big year for me. 2006 is going to be a big year for me to figure it out. And the fact that they sent me to AA to start the season did not make me happy.
Sure.
Been there, done that.
Right.
Cold, not a great place to play.
Right.
And so I went there, but again, we've already kind of talked about it. I was only there for a month and ended up in AAA. And I think the main reason for that is we actually had another catcher kind of come through the ranks a little bit. It was Eliezer Alfonso.
Right.
And he was tearing it up, and he was kind of raising some eyebrows on the things that he could do offensively.
Mm-hmm.
And though my offensive numbers were solid, they weren't to the point where they were what he was doing with home run powers.
Right.
And he was a Venezuelan and put up good numbers in winter ball every year. And so I think it was just they were going to start him in AAA and give him everyday playing time, and they wanted me to still get everyday playing time. So they ended up sending me to AA to get that.
Right.
And then, ended up back in AAA, and Eliezer went to the big leagues a little bit when Matheny got his concussion, because that was the year Matheny got his concussion.
Yeah.
So I ended up back in AAA, and then still got called up at the end of the year in 2006. But again, those 2006 numbers were solid. I mean, I think I had a pretty good year there as well.
Here we go. 2006 numbers, very solid. 71 games in AAA, 233 at-bats, 13 doubles, 4 triples, 4 bombs, 253 so that's your 2006 year stats.
Yeah, so again, respectable. That 250 number. You're 1 for 4. You're
absolutely.
You're not a liability with the bat in your hand.
No.
Those numbers aren't exactly lighting the world on fire. But again, I'm hitting in the 8th hole. Hitting at the end of the lineup now that I'm in AA and AAA. I'm no longer leading off like I did in A ball.
Yeah.
And so. Just staying ready, because you never know. You're a phone call away. You're still in the 40-man. Things are still solid, but
absolutely, you're still relatively young.
Yeah, and Fresno. I wanted to be in Fresno. The weather's great.
Yeah.
The travels. Actually, the travel is we're flying everywhere, but we're flying commercial. So we're getting on these plane rides at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. And the PCL, for those that don't realize, I mean, the Pacific Coast League. Yeah. You're playing in Iowa and Nashville. In New Orleans,
a lot of travel.
What are these teams doing in the Pacific Coast League? It never made any sense. But so the travel was a little more grueling. We're not taking bus rides, but we're on these 4 a.m. wake up calls. Just to be able to get to the city that we're going to. Right. And if there's any delays at all with the commercial airliners, I mean, we're kind of SOL. So. Yeah. But the PCL is a hitting league. I mean, there's all kinds of ballparks there where you could light the world on fire, and some people did.
Right.
So,
does anything stand out about this year that you remember that was just significant before we get to your call up, essentially?
Not really. I'm at this point. I mean, I'm a veteran catcher.
Yeah.
I've gotten a couple cups of coffee in the big leagues and with 2 September call ups. I'm well respected around the league, amongst the other coaches and the other players that have been around for a while. Yeah. I really, like I think I mentioned before, I got very involved with the community in Fresno.
Right.
Was very fan friendly.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, there were these 2 little girls that sat down right next to the dugout, and their names were Savannah and Naomi, and I think they might have been like 6 and 8 years old. Mm. But I was their favorite player, so I'd always go talk to them after the game and sign autographs, and their mom and dad were very nice, and they actually asked me if I wanted to use their cabin during the All-Star break.
Really?
Yeah, and so they and there was up in the Sierra Nevada mountains and everything, but I've just had a great rapport with the fans there, and like I said, it was a great stadium to play in. It was downtown Fresno, which is a little bit suspect, and not as safe as you would want it to be, but I loved playing in Fresno. It was great.
25 years old at this time, so still got some youth on your side. Still feeling like you got some time ahead of you to develop? I mean, you're obviously right there if you've been called up a few times.
Yeah, it's just staying consistent.
Yeah.
You know, trying to keep your numbers where they need to be. And again, I was always told that, you know, catching comes first, and that's how I always played the game anyway. So I just continued to do my job behind the plate and try to put up as best offensive numbers as I can.
Can you get a feel on the temperature, or like how they're valuing you, what they think of you at this point, or like is that discussed, or is
everything? Everything is solid. You know, everything is positive. You know, and so going back to Double A, you know, that put a little shock in my gut, because it was like, what the heck? But of course, now I've got competition. You know, up until this point, up until this year, 2006, I was the only real catching prospect in the organization. I mean, they had a couple of younger guys that were, you know, they were going to try to groom, and, you know, maybe, you know, like there was a second-round draft pick out of Long Beach, I think.
But you weren't feeling threatened by him.
I wasn't. No, there was nothing there. I never really thought about that anyway. I was going to go out and do my job regardless of who else was in the organization.
Yeah, you can't control that.
But now they send me back to Double A, and there's this other catcher, Eliezer Alfonso, and essentially he's ahead of me at this point. Now he's ahead of me. You know, they send him to Triple A over me. So, but I was a team player. I was an organizational guy. You know, after that initial gut punch, you know, I made the best of it, and I ended up, like I said, back where I needed to be.
I mean, are there any talks like with coaches with or anyone within the organization of like, hey, we want you to work on this in the off season, or we want you to be better at this, or this is what we need to see from you?
Well, sure. Like, you know, sure. There's always an end of the year kind of exit meeting, and there was nothing ever, you know, that was glaring that they just needed me to get better at. I mean, I was catching, I was throwing. You know, you always want to keep your catching skills refined, but offensively, I think it was just being consistent. Yeah. And I could honestly say that throughout the year, I would have some pretty good hot and cold spells. Matter of fact, you know, that year in Double A in 2004, I got really hot at the end of the year, and that boosted my average up to that 274, 275, whatever it was. Until then, I think I was only hitting about 240. I mean, Jason, I went on a 3-week tear.
On that sometimes you would be kind of streaky.
Yeah. I mean, I really did. I went on, like, the last month of the season, I just went on a tear, and it really got that average up. And I think the same thing holds true for you know, some of these other years. I mean, I ended up at 250, but I probably was hitting 220, and I had that 3-week stint where, you know, I just didn't make an out, and before you know it, you're raising your average, you know, 30, 40, 50 points. Yeah.
So we're get to a September call up here.
Yep.
Your third one here, or
yeah, this is 2006, so this is my third time getting called up in September.
And last time.
Yeah, essentially it is. This is my last time in the big leagues. This was 2006. You know, again, you get called up, you stay ready, and there still wasn't that much playing time to be had. Right. I mean, all the older guys are still there. Of course, we've got Matt Cain in the big leagues now, and we've got Tim Lincecum, and there's some there's some youth on the pitching staff, but from the position player side and everyday player side, we're still a pretty old team, a very old team. Right. And I think the organization made a commitment all along that as long as Barry Bonds was around, that they were going to commit to bringing in veterans, you know, trying to make a run. There was not going to be a rebuilding effort while Barry was there. Right. And so, unfortunately, that youth movement and opportunity never really came for me. I never really got that chance to play.
It's all about timing, isn't it, man?
Yeah, I mean,
it's so much timing.
It is timing, and again, I only got one start in the major leagues, it was the last day of the season, I believe, in 2006. I got to catch Brett Tomko, and it was against Arizona and facing Brandon Webb. And he's coming off
one
his
of the
Cy
best
Young.
sinkers in the game at this point.
He's coming off his Cy Young winner, and I hit 3 choppers to third base. I mean, and so I think every time I went back to catch, I'm like, yep, there's where that ball chopped right down to the ground, you know. But so it's still cool. And actually, what was really cool about that outing was Brett Tomko needed to throw like 8 1/3 innings to hit his last incentive.
Really?
For his,
Did he get it?
His contract. Yeah, he threw a complete game.
Wow.
Yeah, he threw a complete game. We won 3-1, I believe. Yeah. And he goes, yeah, man, hey kid, I'm gonna have to get you a check for get me through that incentive. Yeah. I never saw any check, but anyway, he reached his incentive, so it's kind of cool that I got to catch a complete game. And
what would be like a typical day in the big leagues for you? Let's just say so you're starting that day, right? So did you know you were starting? They told you were going to get the. call
you
that
know what?
day?
I don't think he did.
Okay.
I think it was actually he did. He said, "Hey, you're going to start tomorrow.
Okay.
You're going to get."
So
started
what does
tomorrow."
that prep look like for you from when you get to the ballpark and you handling your pitchers, handling your own stuff, your hitting, your all that stuff? I'd love for you to take us through that if you could.
Yeah, I like, regardless of whether I was playing or not, I like to get to the ballpark early.
Like how?
So if it's a 7:00 game, I mean, I'm getting there around noon, 1:00.
Oh, I love
I mean,
it,
I'm
dude.
grabbing lunch,
You're
maybe,
one of those clubhouse guys.
or
You
I'll
love
get
to be there.
yeah, I'll get
for
to the
sure.
clubhouse and grab something to eat. You know, maybe
It's
do
fun being
maybe
there, man.
yeah, maybe do some early stretching or maybe get in a light workout.
Right.
And you're always kind of snacking throughout the day, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I would just kind of see what's going on, see if anybody needed any extra work in the bullpen session. I was always willing to catch a bullpen, you know, and work with those guys. Just depending on the day, you know, if I felt like I needed some extra stretching, I'd do that. But once kind of 3:30 hit, you know, you went out with your team warm up. So you're taking batting practice. You know, you might have some extra bullpens to catch or something like that. So you're doing all your on-field game prep as a team, and that usually would go from 3:45 to 4:45, and then the visiting team would always kind of come in after that and do their stuff. So you had about an hour downtime.
Yeah.
But if it was a 7:00 game time, you're heading out about 6:15, 6:20. I always like to get my stretching in and just make sure that I was ready. And as soon as that starting pitcher would come out, I wanted to take him from his first warm-up throw all the way to his last warm-up pitch on the mound.
Yeah.
And we would walk to the dugout together and
Just to get in sync with them and
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And so and there was always maybe a little conversation about, depending on who the pitcher was, sometimes they wanted to meet before we went out just to talk about the game plan because we'd have the other team's lineup.
Yeah.
And so we'd sit there and say, "Oh, hey, we're gonna pitch this guy this way, or we're gonna pitch this guy that way."
Yeah.
And so there was a little bit of strategy there and scouting report to go through.
A lot to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Before we get past this, I would love to know, was there anything unique about how Barry prepped himself as a hitter or what kind of stuff he was doing before games?
Well, like I said, Barry had unbelievable vision. He had unbelievable talent. But one thing that was cool, and like I said, the analytics now are amazing. But one thing that I do remember is let's just say we were facing Greg Maddux that day. They had TVs all around the clubhouse, and they would have video clips just kind of rolling through of him pitching against our guys.
That's cool.
And so,
What a cool detail.
and then there was another room that you could go to, and you can actually see your bats against previous bats if you had a bunch against them. And so, but the other thing that Barry had is we had a batting practice specialist. We called him Cutter John. He was a left-handed guy, kind of a real skinny dude, and I couldn't even tell you his last name. But anytime we were facing a left-handed pitcher,
he threw BP that day?
he would just throw to Barry.
Really?
Oh yeah, he would go down in the tunnel where there was a batting cage, and he would just chuck to Barry, so Barry could see a good left-handed cutter, a good left-handed arm action.
Yeah.
And so we never saw him unless there was a lefty in the rotation for that series.
Man.
Yeah, and he would travel with us if there was a lefty, and so he didn't make every trip, but. Yeah, that was kind of cool to watch him. But, like I said, Barry kept to himself, man.
Yeah,
he really did, and he just did his thing. He did his game prep. There was a couple guys that were on the Giants staff that were specifically for Barry. One guy would stretch him. The other guy would carry his equipment. I don't know what they did, but they were before all the Balco stuff and everything. You could have trainers in the locker room. You could have your own individual guys kind of come through the locker room.
Yeah.
But then after that, they said, there's no personal trainers allowed in the locker room. So these were Barry's guys that had to be put on the Giants staff, in order to keep them. That was my understanding anyway.
Right.
So
yeah, it's so cool that obviously there's all this stuff with Barry that we can discuss, but just that you got to lace them up and share, a field with the greatest hitter of all time. It's just wow.
No, I mean, yeah.
Golly.
And yeah, regardless of the allegations, steroids, you name it, that guy could flat out hit, and he's still, he's the best hitter of all time. So, and this was the year that I asked him to sign the bat and the ball for me. This was the year because
begrudgingly did it.
Well, and and fast forwarding a little bit, I did that because I didn't know if I was going to be back.
Sure.
I was essentially out of options.
Yeah.
So. At the end of the year, I was still going to be retained by the Giants because, once you're out of options, you basically either have to be in the big leagues or they have to take you off the 40-man roster.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that here in a second, I'm sure. But So I just didn't know. If they take me off the roster, I get designated for assignment. That means any other team could grab me or
Right.
sign with another team. So, and his contract was expiring as well.
Right.
So but it ended up being where we both came back. We were both back for the 2007 year.
Yeah.
I signed, or actually, we'll kind of get into that. But after this season is when I went to the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Felipe Alou came to me and said, "Hey, hey Kay, we want to get you down to play some winter ball, get you some more at bats.
That's cool.
Get a little bit different look, face some higher quality pitching."
Dusty was out at this point, and Felipe's in. Is that right?
Oh yeah, Felipe's in. Yeah, Dusty was only there through 03.
Right.
So
yeah.
I never actually got called.
You just interacted with him on when you got to go there with the first round pick that one time.
Yeah, I can't remember how many years Dusty was actually the Giants skipper, but 2003 was his last year.
Yeah.
Felipe came in 04, I believe.
Okay.
So because that was my manager in the big leagues. So.
Do you remember your final hit?
My final hit was against the Rockies.
Yep.
And I think it was off Bautista.
Danny Bautista.
And it was a line drive right over the shortstop's head.
Yeah.
And just a single.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a ho-hum single. I mean, I hit it hard. I mean, it was.
It's still a single in the big leagues, man.
It's
right. Still so cool. Gosh, it's
so
cool.
I got one hit that year. So I got one hit in 05. I got one hit in 06.
Yeah.
And again, the only time I got consecutive at bats was that start where I had 3 at bats against Brandon Webb, and I chopped all 3 of them to the third baseman.
Yeah. Looking back, do you feel like you were able to enjoy these moments, in the show, or was it too fast, or you were too I'm trying to stick?
Absolutely. No, it was a dream come true. It was a blast. Oh my God. I mean, one day in the big leagues is better than 20 years in the minor league. I mean, it's
right.
It's everything you think it would be. You're treated like a king, regardless of whether you're a rookie or a 20-year vet.
Yeah.
I mean, they're taking all your equipment after the game of a series. I mean, they've essentially packed your bag for you.
Yeah.
They make sure everything gets on the plane and gets to the next destination, or if it gets home, whatever. But we are we're just treated like kings. We get our own suite at whatever hotel we're staying at, whether it's Ritz Carlton or a big Hyatt or whatever it was. We got our own room, and they were suites. I mean, they were unbelievable rooms, per diem. I mean, all the money. I always tell everybody, all the money's in the big leagues.
Yeah.
And so, when you're in the minor leagues, you have to have a roommate when you go on the road. You're rooming with somebody that you probably pick, so that you at least
guys are buying $200 cars with flames on them.
Exactly. But yeah, you definitely want to be in the big leagues. I always say if you don't like it, play better, because that's where all the money's at.
So this wraps our last stint in the show, and then we go off season. We play in the Dominican Republic. I'd love to hear about that and what that experience was like for you. That had to have been unique.
Well, so definitely going to the Dominican was something that the organization wanted me to do. They'd always sent me to instructional league.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the fall league, and
right.
now it's like, hey, let's get you to play winter ball. And for those people that don't realize, I mean, there's several different places you can go play winter ball. You've got the Dominican Republic, you've got Venezuela, you've got Mexico, and then I think you've got Puerto Rico.
Right.
So you've got all those 4, and then if you win your league, if you win that country's league, then you go to the Caribbean World Series.
Yeah.
And so
usually on TV.
This was one of the coolest experiences of my life, really, going to the Dominican Republic. Ryan O'Malley had been going to Puerto Rico, so
right,
I got to get his perspective on it. I had several teammates throughout the year that had gone to play winter ball, and I never really knew if it was something I was going to do. For one, a lot of pitchers would go play winter ball because they needed extra innings. Mm-hmm. Some people would go play winter ball, because they got hurt during the year and they didn't get many at bats,
right.
and there was kind of a way to catch up with their
mm-hmm.
development. I had plenty of playing time. This was a way for the Giants to maybe see, okay, if he does well down there playing every day, we'll see how he'll handle the big league stuff, because there's a lot of big leaguers that play winter ball.
Yeah.
Dominican Republic baseball players, they have a lot of pride, man. And the caliber of baseball that was down there was just incredible. I mean, just incredible.
What would you compare it to level-wise?
I mean, it's a cross between AAA and the big leagues. I mean, because you've got so on my team we had Pedro Feliz was our third baseman, who I played with, in the Giants organization. Yeah. We had Nelson Cruz.
Oh wow. He just retired.
He did.
Can you believe
that? He did,
that?
and he was a man child. I mean,
Wow.
We had Julio Ramirez and, like I said, Albert Pujols was on the roster but didn't come around very much. There were several guys, but my first experience, I get to the Dominican, I go through customs. There's a guy there waiting for me. The GM, Jesus Campos, was there to pick me up, and he gets me to my hotel room. And the hotel was kind of like we're in San Francisco de Macorís, so we're kind of right in the middle of the country. And they get me to this hotel, and it's like a nice, Motel 6 or Super 6 or Super 8 hotel. I mean, it's not a very luxurious accommodations by any means.
Yeah.
But it's right next to a casino, and every day I would just eat huevos and pollo, chicken and eggs every day. So I get settled in the hotel, and then I go to the stadium. I grab all my baseball equipment, and I head to the stadium, and I walk in, and there's it's just kind of a cruddy locker room, nothing crazy.
Yeah.
So I get set up in my locker and just kind of meeting guys as they come in. Well, I'm watching all these Dominican players come in. There's only one American on the team. Nick Gourneau was his name. So I'm watching all these guys come in, and every single player that's coming in is taking out their firearm, taking the clip out of their firearm and putting it in the gun safe. And I'm like, okay.
What's going on here?
Like apparently all these guys carry down here.
Strapped.
And so it comes payday, and I was probably making 12, 15 grand a month, but they paid me in cash, $100 bills. And so here I am getting a stack of $100 bills, and the only guy that doesn't have a gun.
Oh, okay, that would make sense, right? Yeah.
And so I'm just like, this is a little freaky for me. So what I ended up doing was I ended up telling them to you didn't need much money down there. You really didn't. So I took a couple $100 and I'd write down on the envelope how much was left in there, and I had them keep it in the safe.
Really?
And I basically signed the money out.
Did you feel safe down there?
I felt safe to the point where I didn't go outside the hotel and the casino that was kind of right there in the ballpark.
Really?
I was not going out to any of the restaurants or bars or, but just kind of jumping around here. There's 6 teams in the Dominican.
Right.
I played on a really good team, but
how do you pronounce it?
San Francisco Gigantes. Okay. We're the San Francisco de Macorís Gigantes.
Cool.
But there was 2 teams in Punta Cana, which they were staying in resorts and everything.
A little
else.
Different experience than you.
And then there was
got the authentic experience, bud.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
I remember being on the bus that would take me, or the van that would take me to and from the hotel on the field every day.
Yeah.
And we're going through all these streets, and there's no stop signs, there's no stop lights. This guy would just honk his horn as he's going through an intersection, letting everybody know I'm coming through. And I'm like, well, I hope somebody's not doing that the other way. And there's chickens running around everywhere, and
how are the fans?
There's like 5 people on a moped.
Fans are known for being just wild, right?
The fans are amazing.
Yeah.
The fans are amazing. They horns and whistles and bells. I mean, and I did okay there. I think I hit a home run or 2 maybe, and we actually made the playoffs.
Okay.
And so we were in the finals, and I think it was best of 7, or heck, it could have been best of 9. I can't remember, but they're marathon playoffs.
Yeah.
And so.
How long was the season?
I got down there just before Thanksgiving, I believe. I think they started sooner, but I went a little bit later.
Okay.
No, I take that back. I went in the beginning of November, went all the way through. I came home for Christmas. I came home for 3 days for Christmas. I got talked that into them, and then we went back and we were in the playoffs. So I didn't get home till I don't think I got home till like maybe end of January or February 1st. But I think we're in Game 7 of this playoffs, and it's a 3-1. No, wait, it's 3-0. We're up 3-0, and the bases are loaded. We bring in our closer, and Carlos Ruiz is up, the catcher for the Phillies. And long story short, our closer's in. He hits a grand slam to put them up 4-3. And our closer's pissed, of course. He just gave up, essentially the game-winning run to send them to the Caribbean World Series. And the next batter is Jose Batista.
Oh, cool.
And so I put down a slider away, and my closer throws it right behind his head on purpose. So the bench is clear, and they're cussing at each other in Spanish.
I remember talking about this back in the day. Yeah, cool.
And everybody's in each other's face, and we always had a security guard in the dugout that had an AR-15, and I mean and so I'm like, man, hopefully this doesn't escalate.
Right.
So, but it didn't really escalate at that particular moment. So the benches went back, and no fist punches were thrown or anything like that. So next pitch, I call for a slider down and away, and Jose Batista just skies it to center field. And instead of running to first, he just runs straight out to the mound right after my pitcher. And I was like, man, oh God, what do I do here? Like this is not my fight.
Right.
But I chased him down. I tackled him from behind, nice. And luckily with the momentum of everybody else just kind of getting in the dog pile, I was able to kind of spin off of him and get out of there.
Good for you, bud. Yeah.
And one of the Joe Horgan, who was one of the American guys that was on the other team, he kind of grabbed my shirt and pulled me out towards second base and said, "Hey man, stay out of this. This is these guys are going to fight this thing out. Let
these
them
are wild
have
boys.
it.
Let them do it.
One of us is getting on a plane tomorrow and going home, and that ended up being me. So he's like, just stay out of it. I was like, well, yeah, I didn't want any part of it to begin with, but
right, but you got to protect your pitcher. So.
Yeah, but exactly. Yeah. So. Yeah, long story short, yeah, they fought it out for a while. We ended up losing the game, and I was on a plane the next morning. I got my money and went straight to the airport.
Back home.
But such a cool experience. Cool experience, and like I said, they're very passionate about their baseball down there. And I would have done it again. Totally would have done it again. I would have liked to have even played overseas somewhere else, like Korea or Japan, and a lot of guys pursued that, and I think I pursued that a little bit, in 2009. But
did you look into Italy at one point? I thought, aren't you guys?
No, it was more. There was a lot of people going over to Japan and making a ton of money,
right.
But it was usually your big first baseman, outfielders that were dropping 25, 30 home runs a year. Or pitchers,
right?
And being a catcher that wasn't hitting that many home runs, there was a language barrier issue as well, and so it wasn't an option for me. There wasn't anybody that was truly interested in that. But it would have been cool. But yeah, the Dominican was a cool experience. Did I feel safe? Yeah, to a point, but I was also making good decisions too, because you do hear some horror stories that can kind of come out of that. Matter of fact, one of my Todd Linden, who I played with for a couple of years in AAA there, and in the big leagues a little bit.
Yeah.
He went
over there.
He went to Venezuela. He went to Venezuela.
Okay.
And he actually got held up at gunpoint.
Did he really?
Yeah.
He went to Japan too.
Got robbed. I think he did too. Yeah, he was a guy that could hit some bombs. Both.
I remember following a lot of the names because you would bring back like bats and stuff, and they would have names on them, and hand them off here and there, and talk about these guys. So I remember. Tony Torcato and Jesse Foppert and all these Cody Ransom. I remember all these names. And checking in on them and being like, oh, I wonder how his career went. And
I was a junkie, man. I would grab anything I could get my hands on. But so it's kind of cool to follow some of those guys. And a lot of them I don't know what they're doing now.
Yeah.
But 2006 it was a fun experience. But while I was down there, I think it was January 2nd. The Giants signed Barry Zito to one of the largest contracts of all time. They signed it was a 6-7 year deal for $150 million. I don't even remember what it was. They did not get their
money's worth out of that one.
And in order to make room on the roster for him, they designated me for assignment.
Yeah.
So here it is, January 2nd. Not a lot of stuff going on, and they slide me through waivers. They designate me for assignment, and nobody claims me,
right.
And so I end up being retained by the Giants, but now I'm not on the big league roster anymore.
Right, it's not.
And I was excited to be out of options because you want the options. You want the organization to be able to send you down to the minor leagues and call you back up as much as they want. But if you're ready to be in the big leagues, which I felt like I was,
forces their hand.
You want to be out of options so that it forces their hand to kind of keep you in the big leagues. So I was excited to not only play winter ball, get a little bit more development, and then go to spring training that year and make them say, look, Knoedler's out of options. We got to keep him in the big leagues if we want to keep him.
Yeah.
And so just the timing of them doing that was to their advantage because they got to keep me, for the entire year of 2007.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a chance to to go to the big leagues that year.
Yeah.
Well, I did have a chance. Matter of fact, I was playing really well.
We'll get to that. I mean, strong year.
Yeah,
you're strongest.
I still went to big league spring training in 2007. This is when Bochy came in. So Bochy is now the manager of the Giants.
Gotcha.
2007,
and a legend.
So it's me. They've got Benji Molina at this point. Benji Molina is now the everyday catcher in the big leagues.
Yeah.
Matheny retired because of the concussion issue the year before, and so it's Benji Molina. There's myself. And then there's Yamid Had, who was in AAA, and then Guillermo Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And so I go to AAA. Everything's good. I'm playing.
Back up a little bit. How do you feel like you stack up against these guys when you're obviously doing drills with them and doing stuff with them in spring training? Like, where do you feel like you're at?
From a defensive standpoint, I'm kind of head and shoulders over all of them.
Yeah.
The Latin catchers always had really strong arms, most of them. I mean, Guillermo had a strong arm. Yamid Had had a really strong arm. But I think I'm still, over them as far as arm strength.
You were so close.
Catching, Latin catchers also had a knack for just kind of being a little bit smoother with their glove on their receiving. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, I mean, I was still rated as one of the strongest defensive catchers, in the organization and probably in baseball, So.
And this is a cool moment, I think, because I'd like to highlight this. You probably didn't know, that you were not going to be going back to the big leagues, but you were so close. You were like what some people, a term that Dan Ortenmeyer and I talked about was a 4A player, a guy that's, probably too good to be in AAA, can't quite stick in the big leagues, and they're kind of back and forth. And catching is such a unique position, too, because there's guys like, a David Ross or, if you can really handle your position, if you can be a catch and throw guy and handle your bat a little bit, you can make a 10-year career as a backup.
100%.
And hang forever, and you were so close, man.
Well, and again, close. So there was something that happened in 2007 where they called up Guillermo Rodriguez. Mm-hmm. And I was hitting I think I was hitting 300 at the time. I mean, I did have my average up over 300 for the first time in my career. I'm hitting over 300.
Yeah.
And somebody went down in the big leagues. It might have been Eliezer Alfonso because I think he was up there at the time. So I think it was me and Guillermo were in AAA together. But because Guillermo had never been put on the 40-man roster, and essentially when they put him on, he had options. So they could call him up, send him down. If they would have called me up, I'm going back on the roster. But then in order to send me down, then they got to designate me for assignment again. So
exposed.
From a business standpoint, they made the right decision.
Man, it's the game.
But it stings that here I am. He's probably hitting 230, 240 when he got called up. I'm hitting 300 for the first time in my life.
But he had better options.
And he, from an operational standpoint, it was easier for them to call him up so that they could send him down a week later or 2 weeks later, whatever it was. And so
it's a tough pill to swallow, my man.
It was, but it's business.
Yeah, it's business.
And in fact, so another cool story about this year is 2007 is the year that the All-Star game was in San Francisco.
Yes.
And so I'm just kind of bitter at this point. Like I'm to the point where they sent me back to AA the year before. They still called me up, not complaining. Just not getting my chance to show what I could do in the big league level when I've clearly already shown what I can do in AA. I've shown what I can do in AAA. So here we are, 2007. I'm hitting 300 for the first time, and they call up another catcher, and I'm just like, this is just gut punched me.
Yeah.
And so Bobby Evans, who was the head of player personnel for the Giants, calls me and says, "Hey, we got a really cool opportunity for you. We need you to catch the home run derby for the All-Star game." And I said, well, let me think about it, Bobby. I was like, my girlfriend is coming out, so Ann and I have been dating now for 3 years, and All-Star break was the time where we'd get 2 or 3 days together.
Your future bride.
And she came out as often as she could, and and we obviously made it work. We've been together for almost 20 years now.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And I told you that I had that offer for that cabin up in the Sierra Nevada mountains. So they were giving us their cabin for the All-Star break.
Yeah.
We had gotten a boat rental lined up, and I just didn't think I didn't want to give that up to go catch in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
And so I turned it down.
Man, yeah.
I turned it down. I can't believe I turned it down, but I turned it down.
I sent you that link this morning. Your jersey from that is on eBay. for like $300.
Well, I've got that jersey.
Well, they've got another one that's on eBay.
The All-Star. Yeah, I've got it.
It's on eBay.
I've got it
right now.
I've got it at home, so they must have made more than one.
Yeah, someone wants to buy that.
So I still got the jersey out of the deal.
Yeah.
But
that's a big gesture for Ann. For you and Ann.
No, it was. And obviously
it's tough to be a ball player's wife or girlfriend.
I was in love. I was falling in love.
Yeah,
all that
absolutely.
good stuff. But it was just something that I made the decision and. Do I regret not catching the big league All-Star game? Probably yes. Yeah, I'd be lying if I. But hindsight's 2020. But it would have been pretty cool to catch that and got to meet all the All-Stars and been around. And
if anyone wants to check it out, eBay right now, Justin Knoedler All-Star Game jersey. It's on there. It's the most expensive item you can find for Justin Knoedler.
There you go.
And I've got a cool clip from Danny Ortmeyer about how close you were.
Yeah.
So here we go.
Yeah, I saw that question, and I think you're right. Like, I think he was probably as close as anybody, right? A lot of times, at that point, it's just kind of, right spot, right time. Somebody got hurt, somebody didn't, right? You got the big hit, or you threw the guy out at the right time, whatever it may be, but. The skills were obviously absolutely there. I mean, just absolute bazooka, on his right arm there. Super freakishly athletic, right? Especially for a catcher. Nothing against catchers, but at that time, you had your, like our Benji Molinas, right? And our guys like that weren't always known as like, just crazy athletic people. They were super athletic, but Knoedler, you've got a 4% body fat plus runner, like I said, bazooka on his right arm and could also, had a pretty good feel for the barrel and the bat,
That's cool words.
Yeah, no, Orty, I mean, I love hearing his voice. Matter of fact, he texted me after the last session, so I don't know if he's obviously been listening a little bit and said he really enjoyed doing the interview. And
cool.
We miss each other so much. Neither one of us has made an effort to to get back together for a while, but we send each other texts once in a while and follow each other on Facebook and all that.
I sent him a text. I said, "Do you remember this defense prank that we talked about in the last episode? This defense." And he was like, "What are you talking about?" And I explained it to him. He was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it." He goes, "I do remember that."
Yeah. So he would have been there. Yeah, he was totally there because we lived together.
Cool.
And
I've got some Dan Ortmeyer quotes here. You ready for him?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, man. Yeah, it was so fun talking to him. I mean, just that I get to talk to all these guys, like these baseball dudes. That it's been a pleasure for me too. Together with Justin through the thick and the thin, the highs and the lows, the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. First impression, he's a wonderful teammate, freakishly athletic. We really hit it off. We just kind of were drawn together. He's like a Texas dude. You're Central Illinois boy. We love to talk about hunting, outdoor stuff. We gravitated towards each other quickly. A hard worker, first guy in, last guy out. It's cliche, but it's true about Justin. He loved being at the field, and that's what you said about getting there early. I love getting in the field early too, like just soaking it all in, man. There's something special about that. I love being in the weight room, loved working, loved being in the cage, loved being around the guys. Maybe too good for AAA, but just not quite there to stick in the show. It's really tough. We just played the clip as close as anyone. Good power to all fields. Known probably as a defensive catcher, but the bat played. Could more than handle himself with the bat. A lot of different hitting philosophies floating around the Giants organization. It was tough to zero in on one, and this is fascinating. We probably listened to too much. We would, grab all the philosophies, hoping one of them would work for us. It wasn't until later that we learned how to use that info, how to, decipher it properly. It didn't need to be immediate big change, once a coach told you to do something. But, you want to be coachable, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we've already talked about this is going to be a topic of discussion here in a second, but fascinating stuff. Just a phenomenal human being, obvious from the time you shake his hand on, cares and listens to everyone, a genuine person, never put himself before anyone else, always team, others first. We played a lot of Tiger Woods on PlayStation together. We were pretty lame going out because I asked him, any funny off the field stuff or, getting wild? And he was like, you know what? Not really. We were just pretty low-key, mild-mannered guys.
Yeah, we weren't partiers. I mean, we'd take advantage of an off day and go out, and we'd go to dinner and stuff like that. But we weren't looking to chase girls and party and drink and stuff. I mean,
Right.
yeah, we'd grab some beer and have a beer once in a while and stuff like that. But I'm glad he said that about a teammate, because one thing I always wanted to take pride in is being the best teammate that I could be.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't take any effort or talent to be a great teammate. And so then and then he mentions about all the different hitting philosophies and that. And one thing that was just kind of weird is Orty always put up good numbers, and I was obviously holding my own offensively. 250, 270, 280. You're 20 hits away from being a 300 hitter, or
like
a 30
Crash,
hit.
like Crash Davis said,
You're not having to reinvent the wheel, and with some of the big league hitting philosophies that they were throwing at us and trying to have us do, it didn't quite make sense. I mean, why are we trying to reinvent the wheel here? You needed bats. That's really the thing that I needed most, at the big league level was, throw me out there for a month or two and see what I can I can do against the best pitching in the world.
Let me fail.
It's not like I was hitting a $180, 200 in the minor leagues. I mean,
you never got that.
I'm
shot.
doing something right in order to have the numbers that I had. And so, Joe LaFay, Willie Upshaw, those were the two big league hitting guys, and they were pretty adamant that I always kept two hands on the bat. They were kind of a top hand dominant. I mean, at least Willie Upshaw was.
Oh man, I remember the top hand stuff.
Both these guys were good hitters in the big leagues. Willie Upshaw was a pretty good hitter throughout his career.
Yeah.
But he was real big on the top hand. And I hit more ground balls to third base because of that top hand, and I was always more of a pull hitter anyway. But just the way they had us when we're working in the cage and they want us to do certain things, you're listening and you're just doing it. And I wasn't using the whole field because of it. It was really tense. I think and I am top hand dominant. Don't get me wrong. I mean, my right hand, I'm a good thrower because of my right hand, my right arm. So I think that kind of parlays into hitting where you feel that barrel and you throw that barrel with your top hand, so it can kind of work the same way as throwing a baseball. But there's some other things that kind of go with that, and so I was pretty tense. And it wasn't until I went to my next destination in 2008 where I got to get outside the Giants organization and start hearing some different things. And I was no longer an everyday player, but that these things that evolved helped me
some new power kind of showed up too. Like we're not totally I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but
well, 2007 came to an end, and I became a free agent. I mean, and so once that happened, I mean, the Giants did want to re-sign me. I mean, they did. I think I had 10 different teams that were interested. And so I really had to think hard. Do I want to go back to the Giants? They had an opportunity to call me up this year with the best numbers, average that I've ever had.
Let me say those 89 games, 302 at bats, 30 doubles, two triples, 7 bombs, 288. Such a strong year. 26. So
So there was a lot of there's a lot of doubles. I was hitting 20 to 30 doubles a year, and a lot of these are fly balls in the gap. Warning track power. Matter of fact, Jim Bowie, who was my hitting coach in AAA, who I loved. I love Boo, and he was just a guy that kind of boosts your confidence, but he always called me light in the ass. And I use that now with some of my kids, and I did when I started coaching, is because I had so many doubles. I'd hit the wall, and I'd hit the warning track, and you'd be like, "Man, Knoedler, you just light in the ass."
Right, but it's like those warning track balls, those doubles right there. It's like, man, 5 more feet, and 5 more of those balls had 5 more feet. You got 12 home runs, and it's like 5 more of those, and you got 17.
And looking back, I think it was because I was strong, but my swing was tense. It was just tight. And when we get into working with the A's, because that's who I decided to sign with. I had all these teams that were interested. People were always telling me, no team's going to treat you like the one that drafted you. And obviously, very grateful to the Giants. I mean, 7 years in the organization. They got me to the big leagues. They let me live the dream. But it just seemed like my time was done. Like I said, they had the opportunity to call me up that year, and it just wasn't.
That was extremely frustrating for you.
It was frustrating. Yeah. Here I am having and I'm getting older.
You are.
Right? And so I had the opportunity to stick with them, go to the big leagues, and have the opportunity to maybe finally get some playing time during the middle of the season instead of September. to play every day in the big leagues, and they didn't give it to me. And so I was like, well, what happens next year? I go back to AAA. I could sign a free agent contract, a 1-year deal, go back to AAA and wait for that call up again. What happens if they pass me up again? So after talking with my agent, we just kind of came up with an educated decision to move on.
Yeah.
So during that off season, like I said, I think there was 10 teams that were interested, but
it's good to be wanted. Yeah.
The one that resonated was the Oakland Athletics.
Right.
They rebuild all the time.
That's true. Yeah.
Their catching was thin. They had Kurt Suzuki and Rob Bowen, and they had a young prospect named Landon Powell. But I got a call from Billy Beane.
That's cool.
Billy Beane calls me
Wow.
And says, "Hey, just want to let you know we'd really love to have you. You know, we've looked at your numbers, and this was during Moneyball and all that stuff.
Man,
and
that's
he goes,
really exciting.
we like your on from my 2007 numbers. I mean,
Yeah.
on base, I don't know how many walks I would have had, but 280 average for a catcher, and so there was something there that fit their model.
Yeah, absolutely.
They
valued you, found value in you.
So because the general manager's calling me, I'm like, that carries weight, right?
Gosh,
I mean, I could, there's several at Milwaukee, and there were some other teams, and I was just like the Dodgers, and I was just like, all right, let's give it a try.
Yeah,
let's sign with Oakland. So I signed with Oakland Athletics, and that off season I did not go play winter ball.
Yeah.
Just prepared myself to join a new organization, and they obviously you're going to big league camp. The offer was so much a month, and there's you always sign a split contract, so you've got your minor league salary and your big league salary, and so whatever that was, but the offer in AAA was great, and so my goal was I'm going to go to big league spring training and I'm going to fight for a job.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
How'd that spring training go for you? And like we talked about, a new organization, new
spring
faces.
training. Spring training was great. So
you're new name for yourself.
Yeah. So you're kind of I'm still in Arizona.
Yeah.
And so matter of fact, to get out to spring training, and Orty Ortmeyer was still with the Giants, but we still roomed together.
Oh, cool.
So we found a house.
That's cool.
We actually did that for 2 spring trainings.
Yeah.
We had a house one year, and then we had an apartment another year. But no, actually, we had houses both years because he brought his wife came out, and he'd bring both of his dogs, and I mean it was just a great spring. But so we roomed together and we got that going. So meeting all the new guys and getting acquainted with how the A's do things.
Yeah, is it like vastly different than how the Giants do things, like operationally, or?
They had a little bit different method on the weight room. I mean, they had a little bit more structure with their weight room and mandatory workouts than what the Giants had. The Giants eventually migrated to that because I knew some other guys in the organization. But so we've got the catching guy. There's Don Wakamatsu.
Yeah.
Bob Guerin was the manager, and Wakamatsu had a little bit different style of catching that I tried. It made things a little bit more efficient back there. I changed the way my catching stance. I changed that. I changed the positioning of my hand a little bit.
Catching is art, man. Yeah.
But I remember it did make me better. It made me block balls to my non-glove side a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to receive the down and in pitch with thummy every once in a while a little bit better. So learned a lot from Don Wakamatsu. Matter of fact, I used that when I was coaching a lot of kids in the off season, some of the new techniques. But at the end of the day, you got to be comfortable back there. You got to be balanced. You got to be comfortable. If you're not comfortable, you're not going to be confident.
Yeah.
If you're not confident, you're going to be tense and everything else. So, but I had a good spring. I had a really good spring. And what was kind of interesting about that is the A's were going to open up the season against the Boston Red Sox in Japan that year.
Oh, I remember this, dude.
The opening day series was A's Red Sox in Tokyo. And so we were all just kind of on pins and needles, like, okay, what's that roster going to look like?
Yeah.
We knew that they were going to have to take 3 catchers. We knew that they were going to have to take, a backup infielder just in case, or and a couple extra pitchers just in case somebody gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just get somebody to Tokyo, in 10 hours, right? You can't get them there overnight. So, we're going through spring training. I'm having a pretty good spring, and I haven't been sent down, you know, and so it's Kurt Suzuki, Rob Bowen, myself, and Landon Powell. Well, Landon Powell was their big catching prospect. He was the guy from South Carolina, Moneyball guy. I mean, he was. So I was like, who are they gonna take as his third catcher? Well, before you know it, they send him down to AAA. Mm-hmm. They option him down. Okay. So here it is. I'm the last catcher in camp. I'm like, I'm gonna get to go to this trip. I'm gonna get to go to Tokyo.
I'm the guy.
And everybody wanted to go. If you weren't the 40-man guys or the big league roster guys were definitely going.
Sure.
But you were going to get paid $40,000 stipend just for going, on the trip, and it was going to be a 1-week trip. We were going to get there. We're going to work out. We were going to play 2 games against the Tokyo teams, Tokyo Giants, and I think the Hiroshima Tigers, and then the 2 games against Boston, and then we were going to come home. And so it's the day before the final cut, and Bob Guerin goes, "Hey man, you're going with us to Tokyo." Man. So he goes, "Make the arrangements." Yeah. Well, the rule is that everybody got to bring one guest, significant other, wife, girlfriend, whatever. Well, I immediately call Ann, and I say, "Hey, do you want to go to Tokyo?" And she was working for the state at the time. She goes, "Well, I just can't take off a week this last minute, I'm." Right. And so she just said, "Look, I can't make it work." Yeah. And so I didn't take anybody. Well, we're getting on the plane to go to Tokyo. We're boarding up, and so-and-so brings his dad, and so-and-so's got his brother, and I'm like, well, son of a gun, man.
I brought one of them. Yeah.
I didn't
think about that.
I didn't think it was. I just thought it was. You can bring your
significant
wife.
other. Yeah.
Yeah. And so and we're obviously not married at the time, but plenty of people brought their girlfriends. But I was like, man, that would have been a great trip to bring Jason on.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I was just being like, oh sure, I'm going to bring my brother with me.
Yeah.
But so me and Brooks Conrad were the 2 extras.
Oh, cool.
I remember Brooks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Brooks Conrad and I get pretty close this year. So we go to Tokyo, and we do all the workouts, but the only thing we can't do is we can't play in the games. We're technically extra players, but we're inactive, and we're just there in case somebody gets hurt. Yeah. So we are living it up in Tokyo.
I'm about to say, what a cool experience.
I mean, we go out to eat. We go to the bar at night and have a few cocktails. I mean, we're not going outside the hotel, but the hotel was unbelievable. It's like it was like a city by itself. Yeah. And so we're just having a good old time. I remember we went to this dinner with it was Rich Harden, Keith Folk.
Wow, Rich Harden.
Keith Folk, myself, Brooks Conrad.
Some names here.
So there was 4 or 5 of us, and we go to this very authentic Japanese hibachi style restaurant. And there might have been only like 8 tables in the whole place, but they were all kind of pushed up against where they were cooking all the food. And you got these 2 guys sitting Indian style with all this just fresh food around them. And the menu was, it was a fairly small menu, but there might have been like 10 items on the menu. Mm-hmm. And Keith Folk goes, "We all want one thing of everything on the menu. We all want one of everything on the menu." So they just it was like an 8-course meal. They just kept bringing stuff out. And at the end of the thing, they bring out our bill, and it's like $3,000. And Keith Folk, who I think he was the one that closed out the Red Sox World Series.
Yeah, he was
in 2004 or whatever year that was.
Yeah, absolute serious big league closer.
And so he bought the bill, or he foot the bill.
Classy thing for him to do.
Yeah. And so, we got like $400 a day meal money on this trip too. So not only did we get a very nice stipend for going, but they gave us all this $400, which was in yen.
The places baseball's taking you, man. So cool.
Oh my gosh! So it was a great trip, cool experience. I think we went 1-1.
What's that like? Just like what's the fan experience? What's the environment like? Tell me about it. Like
So we we got to take batting practice. We got to do everything except be dressed for the game. So when it came game time, but I was in the last group of batting practice, and it was me and Jack Cust. Do you remember Jack Cust?
Of course,
yeah. He ended up hitting 30, 40 home runs in the big leagues a couple of years. So our goal in the last group of batting practice, because neither one of us were in the starting lineup, every time a ball would go out during batting practice, whistles, horns. The fans are just obnoxious but loud. Yeah. I mean, it's so loud. The Tokyo Dome was one of the coolest places I've ever played. I mean, it's just a cool place. And so our goal in batting practice was to make the whistles blow. And so we knocked that out, and these balls are just flying out here. I mean, it's the farthest balls I feel like I've ever hit. I don't know if the balls were juiced or what. But I mean, we're hitting balls like 500 feet. I mean, just incredible. And so that was a cool experience. But the Red Sox that year had Daisuke Matsuzaka. He was obviously kind of probably the reason we were there was the Red Sox days. And then they had Manny Ramirez was on the team, Poppy, all those guys.
Man.
And so it was just kind of it was cool. It was a great experience. I wish, again, my only regret is not kind of digging deeper. But again, I only had like 1 day notice, 1 or 2 days notice. I mean, I had all my stuff. I was going, but to get Ann or my brother or even my dad at the time, somebody else to go, I mean, that would have been pretty cool to take somebody. But
When you were in the show, did you ever watch opposing players BP or anything like that? Like, would you ever stop to watch Manny or go out to just peek?
Yeah, well, I got to spend a little time with Manny when I was in my last year. Not to advance too much, but yeah, he was.
Let's just do it now. I want to hear.
Well, he was in 2010. Yeah, I signed with the Dodgers. That was my last spring training, and so Manny's Manny, man, and Manny being Manny.
I love the Manny.
But you know what's cool? Man. So we talk about Barry Bonds in the clubhouse, and you walk by Barry Bonds in the clubhouse, and you're kind of scared to say hi to him, know, and even if you say, what's going on, B, and they'll just kind of walk right by you and not necessarily acknowledge you unless it's his idea. But if you walk by Manny Ramirez in the clubhouse and you say, hey, what's up, Manny, and he'll come up, give you a hug, hey, Poppy, and so he's just having a good old time. I mean, man, he's just having fun. So
loving life.
But so as far as watching batting practice, well, sure, yeah. I mean, I did that in AAA. If it wasn't too hot and you can just get some shade, you watch some of these guys take batting practice. You may try to find a hole in their swing and try to find out, how we're going to get them out later in the game. And so, sure, yeah. Especially I remember there was one spring training where we were playing Team USA. It was the first. I think it was the first year they were doing the WBC. Yeah, and all the guys, I mean, we're playing them, and it's Griffey and all the guys on that team. So I wasn't going to go in the clubhouse and eat a turkey sandwich. I was going to sit out there and watch these guys take batting practice. And so it was pretty cool. Man. It was pretty cool.
Okay, cool. Well, so you get this cool experience going over there, and then what happens after?
So I actually got credit for two big league games. So actually my official last big league time is those. I got credit for those 2 games because they got to expand the rosters. Now, typically we weren't active, but we still got credit for those 2 days. Yeah, cool. So basically I knew as soon unless somebody got hurt over there, I was going to AAA. Yep. So I went to AAA, Sacramento. Probably one of the best places I've ever played. I mean, they set the attendance record for minor league baseball every year.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, 10,000, 12,000 fans.
That's cool.
Just a great little stadium right across the river. And again, I'm living in a apartment and with Brooks Conrad. Yeah. We've just got a great apartment, and Sacramento was great, but I am now no longer the everyday catcher. Yeah. I'm playing once a week. Yeah. Landon Powell's the prospect. He's catching 3, I'm catching 1. He's catching 3, I'm catching 1. Right. And it was hard for me to adapt to that. Oh my gosh, I'm used to seeing pitching. I'm used to seeing pitching every day. Yeah. I end up hitting quite a few home runs.
Yeah, interesting stat line.
Yeah. But one thing I did kind of go through a swing change though.
I'd love to talk about that.
So we did go through a swing change.
217 at bats, 67 games, 12 doubles, 1 triple, 10 bombs. Yep. You batted 175. Yeah. So I'd love to. Yeah, let's talk about this swing change, the evolution of your swing. Let's go.
It was a tough year because you go 0 for 3 and then you don't play again. Yeah, it's 0 for 3, 0 for 4, and then you sit for 3 or 4 days.
How you live with that?
So you can't get in a groove. And some of these guys that can do it, I mean, more power to them.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But then there were some times where I hit a walk-off home run or I do well. But what happened was
who'd you get with?
What happened was it was in spring training. Ty Van Berkelio was the hitting coach. And he noticed it right away. I'm keeping 2 hands on the bat. I'm really dominating my swing with my top hand. And he just talked about tension. He talked about tension in my grip, tension in my shoulders, and just kind of dominating with that right hand and rolling over too much. And And so he goes, hey man, let's just loosen that grip and let's just let it fly a little bit. He goes, throw your top hand, throw that barrel at the ball, but then just kind of let it go. I mean, just fire like you normally do, but let it go, and just to see if we can do like a kind of like a one-hand finish, you know. And so I did that, and I'm not kidding you. In batting practice, the ball's going like 20, 30, 40 feet further.
This was like a light bulb moment.
I
like,
mean,
oh,
and
man.
so we talked about that batting practice in the Tokyo Dome. I mean, I'm hitting balls further than I've ever hit in my life because I'm not muscling my swing. I'm not over swinging. I'm almost just like inhaling and then just exhaling through the ball, and everything is getting released through contact.
Yeah.
And the balls are just jumping off my bat. I mean, I'm hitting balls to right center out. I'm hitting balls to center left, and just kind of catching the ball in the barrel and letting it go where it wants. Letting the ball just go whatever direction it wants to go, but I'm getting everything through and everything is getting released at the ball.
So feeling good, yeah.
And so, we're in the season, and these balls that are probably going to the warning track or the wall are actually going over the fence now.
Yeah.
And it's not like I ever had a problem getting the ball over the fence in college, but those are metal bats. This is wood bats, so I'm sure there's a little difference there.
Yeah.
But man, it's just surreal. But I just didn't get the enough at bats to get my average up.
Right.
And so.
That
but
has to be frustrating. You have this moment of like a swing, you figure something out, and like a light bulb, like I just said, but you don't get enough opportunity to really capitalize.
But we have a really fun team.
That's cool.
We got a bunch of great guys, a bunch of veteran guys. Like I said, Brooks Conrad's playing shortstop, second base, kind of getting mixed and matched. This dude is on his belly 5 or 6 times a game.
Yeah,
probably
nice big league career.
Probably the hardest playing guy I've ever played with.
Really?
I mean, we had chalk in the dugout, and we'd put tally marks on the dugout wall at how many times he dove per game.
Really?
I mean, he could be 10 feet away from the ball and still die for it. I mean, it was just a gamer. No batting gloves. Casey Rogowski came from another organization. He was a big, burly, left-handed first baseman, and he was a fun guy, kind of animated guy. But the pitching staff that year, we had Gio Gonzalez, we had Dallas Braden, Lenny DiNardo. I mean, we had some really good guys. Kirk Sarloos. I know there's some other guys on there, but Dallas Braden ended up throwing a perfect game in the big leagues.
Remember that?
Gio Gonzalez, I think did he throw a no-hitter? I think he might have. I ended up catching 6 or 7, 8 guys that all threw no-hitters or perfect games in the big leagues. Wow. I mean, Matt Cain, Tim Lincecum, Jonathan Sanchez, Dallas Braden. I know there's some other ones.
Wow.
Just kind of a great year, and we actually we get to August, and Landon Powell gets hurt. So I did get to kind of get a groove at the end of the year where I got to finish the season, and then actually I think it was like middle of August he gets hurt, and here I am. Okay, I'm the only catcher in AAA. They bring up some guy from like rookie ball just to be like a backup catcher because they didn't have anybody else to bring up. And I'm like, well, I guess I could get called up, for September.
It's all about timing, baby.
And I'm thinking, well, all organizations call up a third catcher in September. Yeah. The A's were the only they were the only one. They were the only one in baseball that year that did not call up a third catcher in September.
Ain't that a beat?
Of course, now they're American League team, so they don't need to. They're not DH or not pinch hitting and stuff like that. They got the DH, but it didn't matter really because we won. We won our division, and we end up going to the PCL playoffs. Mm-hmm. So we win the whole damn thing.
Wow, that's cool.
I'm the everyday catcher.
Yeah,
I'm the everyday catcher through the playoffs. We're having a blast. So we get the PCL championship. Well, in AAA, if you win the PCL, then you have a 1-game Bricktown showdown against the International League.
Okay.
So there's 2 AAA leagues, the International League, the Pacific Coast League, and the winner of each will play a 1-game showdown called the Bricktown Showdown. It's in Oklahoma City. Aired on ESPN every year.
Yeah.
And so here we go. We're going to Oklahoma City for the Bricktown Showdown. And
are you guys excited about doing this?
Yeah.
What's the temperature? Okay.
Yeah. We're having a blast. We're obviously all still getting paid, and when you're winning, even if you're dog tired and the end of the season, when you're winning, you're not tired. You're not tired anymore.
Well
you don't feel the arm aches and anything else that you may be going through. And so it was a fun run. It was a fun team. Probably maybe not as fun as the 2000 championship team with your buddies, but this was an awesome year.
Yeah.
We end up. I remember so many people got to watch that game on TV because it was on ESPN too. So they're watching it, and we won. I think I went 1 for 4, and we were the AAA champions that year. We got rings
That's
and
cool.
everything. So it was my 3rd ring. So you got the Lincoln Land ring, the Northwest championship ring, and then AAA championship ring. So it was cool. It was a great year. No call up to the big leagues, but I just thought it was a fun year, and no regrets.
Well, where's your head at this year, being like a backup, and like there's this prospect ahead of you, and
Well, the stats would tell you that it wasn't a great year, but I was not down.
Yeah, you felt hopeful.
I wasn't down. I still had a good resume.
Yeah.
Like I said, at this time, I'm considered a veteran catcher.
Yeah.
I'm a veteran catcher with big league
now.
experience, and I am going to go into the off season as a free agent again.
Yeah.
So, talked to my agent Joe Bick and just said, hey, where are we at? What's gonna happen here?
Yeah.
What are we gonna do? And so, had plenty of options again. And didn't go no winter ball, nothing like that.
Did they want to bring you back? Was there talk?
I don't think the A's did invite me back. I think they had some other catchers.
Okay.
The Giants were interested in bringing me back. Really? Yeah, but this time now they've got Buster Posey.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, one of the guys that I got drafted with after I left the organization, Steve Holm. Steve Holm was a guy that was an infielder at Oral Roberts, and they converted him to a catcher when we were in Salem, Oregon. And I remember throwing to him that first year when I was a pitcher, just beating the heck out of him, trying to learn a slider. But he journeyed through, and because I left and Eliezer Alfonso left and all this stuff, he ends up being the backup for 2 years in the big leagues with the Giants.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, it was just crazy how. But he journeyed through, and he ended up being a great catcher and a good hitter. And now he's the head baseball coach at Illinois State now. I just had lunch with him a couple weeks ago. But it was obviously good for him. But
are you feeling hopeful then? So you had, I know you hit 175, but 10 bombs in limited time. Are you feeling encouraged that this swing change is like, hey, I just need an opportunity here?
Yeah, and Joe Bick started putting all the numbers together, and so he's trying to go out there and sell me, and he knew he's like, hey man, he hit $175, but his power numbers were elevated, and he's only playing once or twice a week. So that was something that he was making sure he was communicating to all the teams as he was trying to get me a job. The Cubs were interested, and I thought maybe that would have been a good decision because of all the day games. Joe Bick said that my career batting average in day games was like 380.
Really?
And he said do you see the ball better during the day? And I'm like, well, it never dawned on me, but maybe. And he goes, well, it's just funny. We put these numbers together on you, and your day game statistics are a whole like 100 points higher, if not more. Than
what's going on with your eyes?
I didn't have any eye problems.
Nothing?
I had 20/10 vision my whole career. I mean, it was 20/20, 20/10. We did an eye test every year, physical every year. I never had any issues, but it's not like my stats were poor.
Right.
But he just said you obviously see the ball better in natural daylight.
Yeah.
So
before we go any further, I want to circle back to the hitting thing one last time because I remember how dominant you were top hand, and like there was one winter when you came back where it was really pronounced, and like we were all following you, like you're the man. So it was like I was doing it, Jason was doing it, and like we were trying to. You would be so top-handed that sometimes you would finish with your top hand and your bottom hand would come off.
Yeah.
It was so dominant.
I know.
Right?
I know.
And I sent you, remember that? I used to video some of that stuff, and I sent you it within the last year, and you were like, don't show anyone that, all of us. It just looked like we were all forcing this movement that wasn't quite right. Like our head was our heart and head was in the right place. And I'm sure this was like, fallout from Barry, because Barry was huge with the top hand stuff, right?
He was with the top hand, but you can't do what Barry does.
Right.
I mean,
we're not Barry Bonds.
So yeah, he was just so freakishly strong and gifted that, it worked for him. And I don't know, Willie Upshaw just had this thing, and I went to the field early to get all these extra hacks and all these extra swings, and we're working on things, we're talking about things, and he was just so adamant that I used this top hand, and I just kind of
he was like force it over.
Yeah,
remember that?
It was unreal, and I to this day, like, yeah, I wish I could have just not done that, because again, it didn't help me. It wasn't necessarily hurting me, but I just think I could have progressed a lot faster offensively if I wouldn't have been doing some of those things. And so,
but you want to be coachable and you want to listen, and like, if these people have been here and done it, it's like, okay, I want what they have to say is valuable.
Yeah,
so.
I remember Todd Linden and I had a lot of talks about hitting too, and he was the same way. So he was a switch hitter, and we would just get one-on-one with each other and be like, so what are they telling you? Or no, what are they telling you? I'm like, well, they're telling me this. He's like, yeah, they tell me that too, but I don't like that. And like, and so we, and again, sometimes we'd be taking batting practice doing this, and we're looking pretty good, and they're coming up, that a boy, and we're like, so you got to stick with it. But so yeah, like I tell you, Ty Van Berkeley, I remember, once I loosened up and took out some tension, I was like, man, I wish I could have just done this about 5 years sooner. Yeah. And it is what it is. Yeah. So you just never know when things are going to click, and timing, like you said, timing's everything. So, but again, you do it. You work with what you got at the time.
Damn truth. So. I know. Talking with Aper, he has some regrets about the same kind of thing. Like too many cooks in the kitchen. He changed his swing when he got to pro ball and listened to too many people, and like he wished he had kind of done what got him there.
Yeah, I remember having conversations with Aper too, and
tough.
I was able to kind of coach him. Based on my experience, is like, look, man, this is your career.
Right.
I went through some things too, but now that my career's over, I can maybe prevent you from doing the same thing. Like, it's your career. You have to produce. Do what you need to do to produce. Right. And so hopefully that resonated. But obviously, the Marlins moved on. But it was it's just kind of weird.
It's a brutal game, man. It's a brutal game. Yeah.
It is. But again, it was a fun journey regardless.
That's the damn truth. So moving on here, we're in our 8th year. We're going to be with 9th year. We're going to be with a new organization again. Tell us how this off season went, and like in terms of talks and landing somewhere else.
Yeah, again, it was kind of funny how this kind of transpired. So. Yeah, there's a lot of interest, but the one that kind of rang home was the Cardinals, hometown team. Yeah. Even though I grew up a Cub fan, I was I didn't care at this point. I'd been with the Giants for 7 years, so I didn't have any real allegiance anymore. And so the Cardinals draft me out of high school, and here you go. And I remember standing in the outfield one day when I was with the Giants with Mike Matheny. We're just out shagging balls, and I said, Mike, did I ever tell you that I actually got drafted by the Cardinals out of high school? And Mike goes, oh, you'll probably end up with them again. You'll probably end up with them someday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, Mike, and here I am signing with the Cardinals, and who's helping out in spring training with the Cardinals that year because he's retired is Mike Matheny. And so
Jay, I think we've skipped a year here.
No, we didn't. No, this is 2000. This is 2009.
I've got you in 2009 with with Florida and the White Sox.
So, so I only went to spring training with the Cardinals.
Here we go. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So I signed with the Cardinals.
My bad.
It's Yadier Molina. It's Jason LaRue. They've got Paganazzi's nephew or son. I can't remember. And there's another young, catching prospect, but I was like, you know what? Let's give it a try. Cardinals sound good. Memphis would be great to go to AAA.
Cool.
So I signed with them. Immediately get into the Cardinals big league camp, and we're working at 6 a.m. Yadi, all the catching guys, and we're going through the drills that you always see Yadi doing, the barehanded receiving drill, and just watching Yadi go about his business was one of the coolest things. Yeah. I mean, he didn't take his defensive skills for granted. I mean, that guy still worked as hard as anybody.
Hey, be honest. Where's your arm next to Yadi?
Well, no,
don't be humble.
I did not have the same arm strength as Yadi. Yadi had.
That is close.
Yadi had. I mean, as far as pop times, Yadi's pop time, 1.65, 1.7 on his best throws, and I might tick higher than that. But he had a smoother way of doing it, and I was more of a grunt power guy too. And there wasn't a lot of finesse with my arm strength. I mean, I got it, and it was kind of a max effort to a point. But yeah, Yadi's the best of all time, man. Yeah. And just kind of getting to spend that spring training with him.
That's cool.
Like I said, Mike Matheny was kind of getting introduced into the coaching stuff now, and he's helping out, and he's there, so it was kind of a friendly face. And Got to catch some of the guys in bullpens, Wainwright and some of those guys, and was just kind of a fun year. Tony La Russa is the manager. The Cardinals are very different spring training oriented. I mean, it's almost like military. Their farm director at the time was Mike Schilt, who ended up managing for the Cardinals.
Okay.
But La Russa's the manager, and then the farm director was Mike Schilt. And so it was kind of cool to see some of the guys come through the locker room in spring training at Big League Camp. Bill Belichick and Parcells and Bobby Knight.
Yeah.
And La Russa had a lot of those connections.
Yeah,
they came through. I had a great spring. I had a really good spring. I got to play quite a bit. I got several at bats. I think I hit over 300 in big league spring training.
Still carrying over that new kind of swing.
Yeah,
good.
I hit great, and so they end up sending me down to minor league camp with about a week to go.
Okay.
And again, I just kind of get thrown on the AAA roster. I'm doing my thing.
Yeah.
And
we're 28 at this time. I've got you 28 here.
20. Yeah, that's about right.
Mm-hmm.
And so spring training kind of winding down, coming to an end. They say they're going to post rosters in the morning, for travel rosters or where everybody's going.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that I'm just headed to AAA. Get to the ballpark early like I always do. Nobody else is really there yet. I go look at the rosters. My name's nowhere on the roster. None of them. Not the AAA, not the AA, not the big league roster, nothing. I mean,
sinking feeling or what?
And I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah.
And who's coming around the corner is Mike Schilt. And he goes, hey man, we were going to call you last night, and I'm really sorry that you had to find out this way, but the organization's got to make a change, and it's a numbers game, and we got to let you go. Damn. And I'm just like, wow. Like, here I am, a veteran catcher. It was just kind of a crappy way to get released.
Yeah.
I'm not just I'm a good person, I'm a good dude. I just busted my butt for 30 days for this organization.
You've earned more than that.
And exactly. And so I call my agent and say, hey man, I just got bad news and this is how it went down, and immediately, makes him pissed.
Yeah.
And so he calls John Vooch, the I guess their assistant GM or whoever his title is, and basically he didn't call Mo because Mo Zalek was the general manager at the time, but he calls John Vooch, and Vooch is like, you know what, Joe, that's not right. We're really sorry that we treated him that way. And Vooch called me.
Really?
He called me and said, hey, just want to apologize. We're not like that. It was bad timing. You got there early. They were going to call you in and kind of explain things to you, but. So the first time of getting those papers or getting that message, hey, organization wants to make a change.
Did they pull you into the office after this little brief interaction? Or
No,
it
was basically in the hallway. And
oh man,
that
is disrespectful for someone of your caliber.
That's a good way to put it. It just felt a little disrespectful for a guy that has a big league resume, has kind of been journeying around.
Yeah,
and so. So yeah, I gotta pack my stuff and figure out what's next. I mean, I really don't have much time to digest it.
Gut punch,
it's like
right?
I'm already at the field. It wasn't like they called me at home or anything like that. It's and they knew the night before. Yeah. They knew what they were doing. They could have easily done it at the end of the day, the day before. Maybe they didn't. But long story short, I packed my truck up with all my stuff and I start driving back to Springfield.
Yeah.
And it is literally the worst. I mean, this is the last day of spring training. Big league team had already departed.
So everyone's rosters are set.
Yeah, big league team had already broke camp.
Yeah.
Minor league is always a few days later, and so there's nothing for me.
No openings.
Joe's like, well, he goes, you're gonna have to
sit for a little bit.
You have to be patient because everybody just did what they did to you. They just released all their guys that they didn't have room for.
Right. So all these other guys are in the same boat as you, looking for new organizations too.
And it was simply a numbers thing because I hit great. I hit 300.
Right. Yeah.
May have hit a home run or two. In limited action. Yeah. I mean, I might have gotten 20, 30 at bats in spring training, and so just kind of brutal. But so I drive home for a few weeks, and
how's that drive home?
Yeah, I always drove out to spring training. Always drove to the season, back from the season.
Yeah.
It was just a great time to reflect on things.
Be a lot of reflection
I
on this
loved
one,
I loved driving out, and so yeah, you just start thinking, what if that was it? This could be it.
Right.
And
Some existential questions. Yeah.
so yeah, I think, and I called Ann. I was probably a little upset. It's like, I'm coming home. I'll see you shortly.
Yeah.
And so we no more. Actually, I say that Ann and I were engaged at this time because we got engaged in 2008.
Yeah.
During the Sacramento year.
That's cool.
She came out. I definitely don't want to leave that out. So she's she flew out for spring training or for the All-Star break, and we ended up going finding. We went to Napa Valley. I take that back. We went to Napa, and I proposed at one of the wineries, and
cool.
all that. And Carl Gigani, he helped me up get the ring. He sent me out a couple rings. I'd get him back, and we made it happen. So, yeah, that was a great year. 2008 again, it was a great year. But
we've got some cool things to say about Ann later. But I also want to shout out to Ann. It's tough being a ball player's wife. Girlfriend, fiance. I'm like, you're gone and you're doing your thing, and it really is kind of a selfish pursuit to be really good, and you have to spend a lot of time doing your thing. So
100%.
And you were amazing. I just want to say that.
Yeah, she is, and she we started dating after 2004, and so here we are. It was about 3.5 years later that I finally proposed to her.
Yeah.
But we dated for 3.5 years, but we were only together probably for a whole maybe 1 year because of all the time that we're away. But
what a trooper.
So I call in on my way home from getting released and just thinking, well, maybe it's time for me to move on. I mean, we're going to be getting married.
Oh man.
We've got the date. We got the date set, and so maybe this is it. And so I get home and we're just kind of setting things in motion and doing whatever. And Joe calls me and goes, "Hey, the Marlins need a guy in AAA."
Yep.
And this would have been like middle of May. I mean, it was because it was probably middle of April when I finally got home. Because the spring training usually goes into first week of April. So it was early middle of May. I get down there to New Orleans, and I'm just a fill-in. I'm really they had some catchers get hurt. I was nothing more than I was a veteran guy that could be ready to go to the big leagues if they needed somebody in a hurry. But I was basically there to play once a week, maybe twice a week, fill in.
What does it feel like to do that?
It's not what I was wanting.
Because like the next step isn't really there for you. The opportunity is not going to be there.
Yeah, you're no longer a prospect.
Yeah.
You are just a suspect.
And you turned into suspect.
You are basically an insurance policy.
Yeah.
Good character guy.
Yeah.
Veteran experience. Obviously, big league experience.
Yeah.
Not a liability.
And what does that do to your motivation?
It sucks, man. It really does because you play the game because you love to play the game. You want to play every day. I wanted to be on the field every day. I didn't want to be a fill-in. I wanted to play every day. The only way you're going to get back to the big leagues is by putting up numbers and showing people what you can do. And you're just, hey, you're going to catch a day because you're going to give this kid a day off. Yeah. I mean, it kind of stinks.
You're never going to get that chance.
And so, but you never know.
You never know.
Never know.
That's the beauty in the game, right?
You just never know.
That's the beauty, right?
So I'm there I think I'm there for a couple of months, and I've got staying with John Rayner,
barely playing.
Another guy. We're in a house, and New Orleans is hot. It's not, it's a kind of a dirty place, but it's the PCL, Pacific Coast League again. So I'm still traveling to all the cities that we always went to. So you had some favorites and you had some that you didn't like too much. So. Guys get healthy, and then the Marlins got to do the same thing that the Cardinals did. Hey, we just guys coming back. We don't have any roster room, so they just want to let you go. And so, all right, I'm gonna go home again.
Isn't that the worst feeling, getting called into your skip's office and you know what's happening?
Yeah,
gosh, it sucks.
It was brutal, but and there was a couple good guys on that team. So you made some new friends, new relationships, kind of a new experience. But go home again, and then it was like 2 weeks later, the White Sox needed a catcher in their AAA.
Same role.
So, yeah, pretty much to back up Flowers, Tyler Flowers, who ended up catching for the White Sox for a few years.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's still playing or not. But so yeah, I'm just kind of filling in for like the last maybe month of the season in Charlotte, South Carolina, North Carolina.
You got 9 games one place, 8 games the other. So just
Yeah.
You're
literally what we just said. You're there just to fill a void until guys get healthy. Winning is really not that important in the minor leagues. It's all about, getting guys developed to be ready to go to the big leagues.
Yeah.
And it's fun when you are winning, and obviously you're playing for a championship, and some places are better than others, like Sacramento.
Yeah.
But it was kind of brutal.
You're a bright, logical guy. I'm sure you can feel your window closing. That must be a weird thing. Like your baseball mortality is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm approaching 30. I got in the game when I was 20. I turned 21 in Salem, Oregon, and so I've been on this basic 9-10 year journey.
Yeah.
And I'm no longer getting those opportunities to play every day. I'm now with my third team within a year. Cardinals, Marlins, and then the White Sox. Yeah. So Charlotte was a cool place, older stadium, cool experience, some good dudes on the team. But I was just basically there. I got a 1 month paycheck, and then I got back in the truck, a Chevy Avalanche, and I threw a bunch of crap in my truck and drove home.
Trusty Avalanche, yeah. So another off season. Was there thoughts of hanging it up, or were you like, I'm playing another year at least?
Yeah, no. Again, it was a discussion. So Ann and I got married that year. We got married in October that year. And I think we just kind of discussed, like, okay, you know what? We're married now. Let's give this one more year. Let's just go one more year. Let's just see what happens. Yeah. Eventually, I'm knocking on 30.
Yeah.
And eventually, Ann and I want to have a family, and
right.
I knew that I did not want to have a family and traipse through the minor leagues. I knew that.
It's tough, man.
It's one thing if you're established big leaguer and you've got a lot more funds and you're making a lot of money, you can make things work. But when you're in the minor leagues, even though I was to a point where I was making a pretty good salary in AAA, I still didn't want to just traipse my family through the minor leagues. Yeah. So when just Ann and I, we were going to give it a shot. So Joe Bick gets me tied up with the Dodgers, and at this time Ned Colletti, who was with the Giants, is now the general manager for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And so he remembered me from the Giants days and liked me, and so he signed me. And so
big league camp.
Go to big league camp,
nice.
And we have more guys. Probably one of my more favorite big league camps. The Dodgers, a lot of history there.
Oh,
of course,
gosh,
I spent 7 years in the Giants where we hated the Dodgers.
Right.
But I figured if like Ned Colletti can do it, and some of those other guys can jump ship, so can I. But just a quote. I mean, we had
historic organization. Yeah.
Manny Ramirez. The catchers were Joe Torre's the manager.
Yeah.
The catchers were Brad Ausmus and Russell Martin.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, studs.
And then so there's me, and then there's AJ Cody. I think it was AJ Cody. He ended up being in the big leagues for a couple of years. So I am not kidding. I'm going through spring training, doing my thing. I'm watching Manny Ramirez kind of go through some of his drills, some cool drills that he did.
Yeah.
I'm working with Don Mattingly and Jeff Pentland in the batting cage. Kind of letting go. Batting practice is looking good. Getting a little bit of playing time here and there, but I am in big league camp till the last day.
Oh wow!
I mean, we're there till the last day, and nobody's told me otherwise. So I'm just gonna sit in there. And
what's going on?
One thing that was kind of questionable is that Brad Ausmus had back spasms like every day. He was out. He wasn't getting to play much. I actually was playing pretty regularly in spring training and doing pretty well, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Martin tears his groin, does something where, and this was like, and they said he was going to be out maybe two months, with this groin injury. So I'm like, man, I'm gonna be on this team.
Yeah,
I'm gonna break camp. I don't know what it was. I don't know if somebody gave them some get well pills, took a magic wand and said, but both these guys end up being game ready by opening day.
Really?
And I mean, I don't know what they did. Ausmus was just back spasms. I mean, he was going to be all right, treat that. But Russell Martin, I mean, they were saying he was going to be out.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they did some of that blood spinning stuff and, injections or whatever, but they got him healthy. And here we are again. I'm not the guy that they were planning on catching every day in AAA. So they said last day of spring training, they said, look, we don't want to release you because we still may need you, but we don't have a spot for you in AAA right now. We don't want to send you to AA. Mm-hmm. So they kept me in extended spring training.
No.
And I was okay with it just because I was like, well, if you release me, I'm not going to find a job. They're going to keep me in Arizona. They're going to keep me in Arizona. I'm still going to get my AAA pay.
Yeah.
And so
some guys get really dejected getting sent to extended.
Well, yeah, but the reason made sense.
Yeah.
You're going to be down here. You're going to stay in shape. You're going to continue to work out. You got some opportunity to play in some games. So I joined the minor league camp. It breaks, and then we start these extended games, and I'm playing in one of these games, and I get bowled over during a extended spring training practice game, essentially.
Yeah.
And didn't
like
think
play at the plate.
Play at the plate. Yeah, and it was. I'm pretty sure it was against the White Sox organization. So I kind of come up and I'm like, okay, my bell got rung a little bit, like it had several times.
Yeah.
Never thought much of it. So then the next day we're playing, and I get a foul tip that rings my bell, and again I'm like, man, that didn't feel good, but whatever, and just kind of a little lightheaded, but you suck it up, you drink some water, you get through it. Yeah. And the next day I wake up to go to the ballpark, and I literally am like vertigo, or whatever they call it. I mean, I'm spinning. I'm sick to my stomach. I can't function. So I'm like, okay, is it from the concussion, or is it from am I sick to my stomach? Am I just got a virus or something?
Post-concussion syndrome.
And so I got myself to the field, and they start doing some protocol, the test on me, the impact testing. And I'm failing miserably.
How's your memory? You can't do anything.
Failing like miserably. And but even hurt to even look at the screen. It hurt to have lights on. Yeah. It was not good. So they got me home. They got me back to my room. They said, look, just lay in bed, dark, cold. We'll check in on you. We'll check in on you later. And so a couple of days go by, and it's really not getting that much better. And at this point, we're kind of at the end of May, and they come to, and the farm director says, "Hey, man, we're going to go ahead and make a decision here. We're going to release you." And I'm like, what? Can they release me while I'm hurt? But I mean, I think that was the intention anyway, to keep me around for about a month, and then if nothing shook out, they were gonna do it anyway. So it was fine, and so Ann flies out and drives me back to Springfield
because you can't drive.
Yeah, we didn't think it was safe.
Yeah.
And so I get some treatment back here, and finally kind of get cleared. It took me about a month or so, and I'm back to okay. I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
And all the symptoms have kind of subsided, and so talking to Joe Bick, I'm like, Joe, what do you think, man? Is this it? And he goes, well, I hate to say it, but we're kind of at that crossroad.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, I was like, that's fine. I'm married now. I'm gonna start figuring something out. And I remember Ann and I got this duplex and off of Bradfordton Road here in Springfield, and I'm just sitting there at my kitchen table like, all right, what am I gonna do? And Ann's like, yeah, what are you gonna do? Man. And so I go, before you know it, I'm out at Lincoln Land, just kind of seeing what they're up to.
So it wasn't like some agonizing, like, oh man, like I can't believe my career's over.
Yeah, the writing was kind of already on the.
Slowly kind of happened.
Yeah, it was kind of already on the wall. Writing was already on the wall.
Yeah.
And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I've already lived the dream. I've gotten to the big leagues. I've made a little bit of money.
Yeah.
I've saved up, and I really am. I'm like, it's time for me to move on. Jason had already moved on. He was already done and working for the Bank Springfield. Yeah. And even though I wasn't sure what direction I really wanted to go, I was like, you know what? I was like, Joe, I think I'm done, man. I really appreciate everything that you've done for me. but I just think I'm going to try to see what I can get my hands on here in Springfield and go from there. So
Man, that's a surreal moment.
it wasn't a couple weeks later where the Oakland A's and the Milwaukee Brewers both called and said, "Hey, we need a guy in Double-A."
Tempted? Or not?
Somewhat, but I had already kind of set the wheels in motion that I was going to start moving on. Had a discussion with the Giants about getting into coaching, and you start thinking about, okay, the salary that they were paying the coaches and the lifestyle that these coaches had to live.
That's what pushed O'Malley out.
My dream was to play in the big leagues, not to coach in the big leagues. And so for that lifestyle, living out of a suitcase, all those things that eventually do wear on you, was not something that I wanted to pursue. I mean, they offered, and I long conversation with several of the Giants coaches about this, because they were like, "Man, you'll be really good. You'll be really good." And I was like, "Well," I was like, the only job that I think that I would really want to do in baseball that wasn't playing would be to be the actual bullpen catcher for the big league team. I was like, you tell me that I can warm those guys up, because I still to this day love to just throw the gear on and catch a bullpen. I was like, but you tell me that I've got a really good shot at having that job within a couple of years. Well, you never know. Those are kind of the manager's friends sometimes, and their buddy system. And I was like, well, I'm not going to roll the dice and go coach in Hagerstown, Maryland, or wherever the heck else they were going to send me for, $30,000 a year,
in
and
hopes of that being the end goal.
And so, I was done.
Yeah.
I said that was it. And, I truly was at peace about it. There wasn't any emotional breakdown or anything like that. Like I said, I'd already, it was easier that I'd gotten a chance to experience the big leagues. That really helped. Had I not gotten that, who knows? Maybe I would have held on. But you've always got guys that are either hanging in there with real opportunity, and then there's guys that are holding on. And I was not going to hold on. I was not going to hold on to getting back.
I respect that, and I'm not, by no means am I comparing myself or my career to you, but I played some indie ball. My career ended with a concussion too, and I know how brutal that can feel when you can't remember things, and you're dizzy, and it's hard to drive, and colors are messing with you, and TV. It's a scary time. So
it is a scary time, and there's still times where I feel like, am I going to be one of these guys that has CTE? These concussion guys.
I wonder that too.
And I wanted to have a family, and we've got 2 beautiful kids now, and I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world. And if I would have continued to hold on and gotten more foul tips or had another impact, like what could that have done? And I mean, essentially that's why Mike Matheny gave it up.
Right.
I mean, Mike still had years left of catching if he really wanted it, but he was in a bad place.
Do you feel like your brain is healthy? Like you got out of it okay?
Oh yeah. No, yeah. I mean, the fact that I can recall stories and maybe not to the perfect order, but memory and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't think I've got any long-term effects. So
you seem like you're here with me.
But so go back to that question of so what are you gonna do now?
Before we do that, I saved my Justin Knoedler quotes until now. So let's just get through a few of these. They were so they went from childhood to high school, so I didn't want to do it all at one point. So here we go. We've gone through your whole baseball career, so I'll talk a little JA quotes here. So took to catching very quickly. It came natural to him. He made me better, and I made him better. I truly believe that. We were always pushing each other. Sometimes making fun of each other was the motivation. Finish each other's sentences all the time to this day. Some say we share a brain. We know what each other are thinking. We know each other's limits, when it's time to push or support, a pat on the back. Being drafted in high school felt like it came out of nowhere. He said, you hit 156 as a freshman in high school. He was laughing about that.
That's double. That's double what I really had.
Continued to get better and better in high school. Never stopped. Oh, this is cool. Oh, yeah. So you remember this. A motivational speaker in high school inspired you to be healthier and work harder. You guys stopped drinking soda. There was some guy that came and talked to you guys. Like a lot of times, it's easy to blow that off in high school, right?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you his name, but it was about the side effects of caffeine and drugs and everything else. But so obviously we weren't doing drugs, and we weren't out drinking alcohol. But it was even caffeine. It was like caffeine can really have an adverse effect on your body. So we didn't drink any caffeine, soda, anything.
I've always thought you guys were a nice balance of You guys worked hard, did the right things, but you weren't like nerds, squares. You guys had some fun.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But
don't let us fool you.
But
We
the
still-
appropriate amount, like yeah, cool.
Yeah, we got ourselves in a little bit of trouble.
We know each other's darkest secrets and greatest successes on JU's athleticism. Used to joke. There used to be a joke between the basketball team and baseball team at Lincoln Land on who could win if you guys actually, had a game. Jay said, he could just throw it up anywhere around the rim and you could tomahawk it down. Just incredibly strong legs.
Yeah, that was actually a lot of fun. So I don't know when exactly that took hold, but I remember in high school I couldn't dunk in my senior year, but all the extra strength that I obviously got, man, I could jump out of the gym.
You could, yeah.
I mean, it was crazy. And,
Yeah.
Jason would bounce it off the floor, and I'd find a way to grab it and just
cool.
alley-oop it. I mean,
Yeah.
you name it. But that was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. His swing path was ahead of its time. JU hit the ball in the air a lot. Tried to hit some fly balls in BP. I would be chirping at him. Hit another one off the top of the turtle, you jackass.
He did.
That totally sounds like you
Oh,
guys.
yeah, he did. He's trying to get his fly ball work in, and I wasn't cooperating.
Yep. Batted cleanup for us in Lincoln Land. Justin led when he had to. Had great command of his pitching staff. Not the type to get in your face unless it was a real problem. We really led as a group at Lincoln Land. All of us were rolling in the same direction, and everyone was bought in. Called a great game behind the dish. Plus arm, 5 out of 5. A catcher that could really run, only a step slower than me. We've touched on that. Hand was still hurt when he was drafted out of Miami. It was understood that you might as well go pitch, with the understanding that you were going to go back to catching, or was it an option? Kind of a question. Incredible seeing him drafted 3 times. We all thought he was going to go out of Lincoln Land. After finally having a better year than him, the year of my life, he still gets drafted ahead of me, and he has a broken hand. He was laughing about that. And he wanted me to ask you about the All-Star game, but we already talked about that.
Yeah. So, yeah, they obviously some great times with him, and still my favorite teammate of all time. We had a lot of cool experiences together, and to be able to experience the professional journey kind of at the same time.
Yeah.
And then when he actually signed with the Giants, which I know you guys covered on in his story, but he came to the Giants that spring, and that was kind of cool just to have him around.
Absolutely.
And, he saw the writing on the wall too. He knew that it was time to kind of move on and get into a different career, and so. All good stuff right there.
I think both of you guys walked away from the game with your head held high, Everyone
100%.
walks away in different ways.
Yeah. No regrets. You could play the what if game.
Yeah.
Should I have stayed with the Giants because of the way things kind of transpired after I left, with them kind of going with the youth movement and guys getting opportunities that I was clearly ahead of in the depth chart, before. You never know what would happen. I mean, you just don't. So there's no regrets. Every single place I went to, I could see the entire country. Lots of very cool cities, cool ballparks.
Yeah, dude.
Relationships that I'll have forever, memories that I'll have forever. I mean, just amazing 10-year journey.
Yeah, the game really set you up and shaped you in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So moving on here, we're done with baseball as a player.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're coming back home, and we're going to figure out life. Do you remember the show In Living Color? Back in the day?
Oh yeah.
Right. So it's
Oh,
it was like the Wayans brothers, Jim Carrey, Tommy Davidson. There was
Jamie Foxx was in.
a ton of stars. There was a skit that was called like the Jamaican Dad or something like that. Anyway, the whole premise of it was there was this Jamaican dad, this Jamaican family, and I guess Jamaican people are hardworking. So it was like he would make fun of people if they only had a couple jobs. He had like 10 jobs or 12 jobs. He'd be like, "Only got 4 jobs, man. You're lazy." And that always made me.
I do remember.
That always made me think of you, because this guy, it was insane what you were doing once your baseball career was over. He would be personal training at Body Cemetery at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and then you do that for however many hours. Then you'd head to Lincoln Land to do. I know you were involved in their study tables and their weight room, and then obviously an assistant coach. You were doing hitting lessons at night. You were getting paid to be a coach for travel teams. I mean, there were days. I mean, you probably start at 4 in the morning and get done at 9, 10 at night for years.
Yeah, it was.
I mean,
yeah,
I don't know how you did it.
I don't know how I did it as long as I
don't
did
know.
it, but I knew that. Well, I didn't know that I wanted to stay in baseball. I thought that that's what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
You have this career, you have all this knowledge and information, and you just think, what, this is what I'm supposed to do. It's a natural progression. You're done playing, so now you got to go coach. And so I didn't want to leave Springfield though. You know, Ann and I, obviously we're married. You know, we want to start a home and a family, and so went out, had a conversation with Riggle, obviously, and he welcomed me with open arms to be part of his staff. Yeah. Talked to Chad about getting involved on the training side and training some athletes. Yeah. Because I knew that really helped my career. So that sport specific training at an earlier age could have benefited me. So I thought that would have been a good angle to start pursuing. And then, just baseball lessons and instruction. There was always a demand there, and I always kind of did a few here and there when I was playing, but, just kind of it took off. Once they knew that once I started doing them and people knew that I was doing them, I could have done 100 a week. I mean, it was just crazy. Yeah. And so I didn't like to say the word no very often. So you're right. So I started training. Chad had some clients that wanted to train with me that thought that I had a good rapport with. So I started at like 5 a.m. and I would try to do a schedule there Monday through Friday from like 5 a.m. to 10 or 11. And then Bull was able to, out at Lincoln Land, obviously make me an assistant coach, but as far as a salaried position, there wasn't one available, right? He had Danny McGee and I think Weaver was still helping out at that time. And so he's like, hey, we can get you kind of overseeing the fitness center. And there's a stipend there that you get, but you just have to work so many hours there. So I would try to get out there between 11 and 1, 11 and 2, because practice started at 1 or 2 o'clock every day. So I'd try to finish up at Body Symmetry, race out to Lincoln Land, get my hours in, and basically oversee the fitness center and open gym. And then sometimes study tables, and then practice started at 1. We'd have a 1 o'clock practice till about 3 or 4. And then I would schedule my lessons after that, and I would do lessons from 4 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes like you said, till 9, 10 o'clock at night.
I don't know how you did it.
And this whole time I'm just go, and the work ethic is still there, the passion's still there. Yeah. Before you know it, I got a call that people they wanted a summer coach. Mitch Trees' crew. They were transitioning into the high school ranks. Yeah. Mitch Trees was an unbelievable, kind of phenom player himself. Yes. And so I'd already been working with him on some catching lessons and some hitting lessons at 13, but now their team's kind of breaking up a little bit, and their coach no longer can coach. So they said, hey, we can get you as our coach, and we can recruit some extra players. And we can go travel. So we did that too. I think I got like 7 or 8 of the core kids that were coming from this team, because some kids went and played for the Mules.
And that team became the
that was Mayton's crew. Okay. All right. And so we were like, well, what are we going to call it? We stuck with the Statesman name. Yeah. We actually stuck with the Statesman name with Mitch Trees' crew. But I recruited a few extra kids that I knew, and we pieced it together, and we had a great 3 years there. We went over to Ohio State and Michigan and Notre Dame, and we're playing at a lot of these big schools that I never did. Yeah. And we had a blast, and Ann loved it too, because now Ann's we're traveling, we have no kids ourselves yet, so we're going to all these.
Enjoying and just having you around.
Well, yeah, that too. So this is her baseball experience, as a husband and wife, really, because we didn't really get that as a married couple. We got it as before marriage, she'd come out, but. Yeah. So now, we spend 6 or 7 weekends during the summer traveling to all these cool cities, and we can go to some restaurants, and we can shop a little bit, and then we're a really good team. Just a really good team. And then the Lincoln Land team was good. We went to the national tournament a couple times out there coaching, but it was a lot. It was a lot, and I don't regret doing it. I mean, relationships, people that I was training on the strength and conditioning side for Chad at Body Symmetry. All the relationships that I got through Lincoln Land and those players, all the kids that I've impacted, the lessons over the years.
You've impacted a lot of people.
Man, it was a lot, but it was a blast doing it too.
Speaking of people,
it was going to be hard to sustain. I could tell you that.
Speaking of people that you've impacted, I interviewed Aper and Mitch Trees, and both of them, think of you as such a mentor, and I've got some quotes of them.
Yeah, I was very blessed to coach both those. Talented. Like Chad got to train us. That we were a challenge. I can train a 5 or 6 year old and try to teach them, but these kids had real ability. They had real talent, My goal was to just kind of pass along tidbits of information, all the different coaches that I had and all the different things that I was trying to be taught.
Yeah.
Some things stuck, some things I didn't like, some things didn't work, but I had just all these things that I could throw at them and say, hey, try this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you don't like that? Let's try this.
Yeah.
And so that, just like we did when we were in the cage together.
Yeah.
I mean, so you just keep trying stuff. And so very blessed to be able to work with some guys that had some real ability and just not screw them up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what good is all this experience and knowledge if you don't pass it on, you know?
Yeah.
So that's just, you've had such an impact on the Springfield community and baseball in so many ways.
I never thought I would have the patience to coach little ones. That obviously got better. You know, if you would have come to me at 25 and said, "Hey, will you work with my 8-year-old?" I don't think I would have had the patience.
Right.
That came. You know, as
Later.
28, 29, 30 years old.
Sure.
You know, you start to realize, oh yeah, man, I can now teach this. Now that I fully understand it myself, I can now try to pass this along. And you get better the more you teach it, the more you talk about it. The better you are at teaching it, right?
Yeah, well said, yeah. And I know Ryan Aper just has so much gratitude towards you and like what you meant to his career and like the whole process. Let me just get through some Aper quotes here, and also let me give it up to Aper for being the first guest to come on here. Like, he set the tone for this whole thing. Like, him being awesome and being willing to speak about his experiences and being so well spoken. He set the tone for everyone going forward. So I love that guy, one of my best friends, and thank you, Aper. Anyway, all right, Ryan Aper quotes. First met J.U. on my visit to Lincoln Land. I was very aware of who he was. He always had the most energy on the field, including all the players. This is as a coach.
Yeah.
Always did, no question. He talked about you know, throwing BP and dropping down and knocking out push-ups in between stuff. And, like, this dude never stopped. Him being a huge determining factor in coming to Lincoln Land made the decision that much easier, put me over the edge. An absolute unit, a machine. This guy could kick my ass. And they said I couldn't let my coach outwork me, so he set the bar so high. Justin never told anyone no for extra work, never, and that was really cool. First and foremost, his resume speaks for itself. You would never question what he has done or what he knows. His hitting advice was so meaningful and simple for me. Two things that always stand out to me: deliver the barrel high, keep your hands above the ball, be on time. Those were cues that, you know, stuck with me through my whole career and really took me to the next level. If Justin told me to stand backwards on my head, I would have done it. That's the kind of respect I had for him, and others did as well. Justin was a role model to me, have the utmost respect for how he carries himself, treats others well, such a good person, willing to share his knowledge, a true mentor, you know, meant so much to me. Led by example, was a doer, more than a motivational speech guy. And I've got a couple clips here that I'd like to play from Aper.
I was just gonna say Aper was so fun to work with, so fun to watch play.
Gosh,
and again, you didn't have to reinvent the wheel with him. It was just you see something that this might work for him, so let's give it a try. And I'm glad he said that, you know, because again, you can't. You know, anybody that wanted extra work, that wanted to get some extra work, you know, as a coach, you should say yes. I mean, obviously, we've all got other things we have to do and other responsibilities. But if I had the time to give, I was certainly going to give it to a guy like Ryan Aper that, you know, you saw the potential in him and the places that he could go. So.
Oh, this is perfect then, because I've got obviously a part of you and having all this time too is Ann being supportive of you and like being with this and on this train with you. So. This clip is going to be called "Flowers for Ann" from Aper.
I also want to give a world of credit to his wife. I mean, what an amazing person that she has.
Seriously.
Yeah, and I know her, you know, a little bit. We helped him move some stuff, so you know, just being around him, I know her a little bit. But my gosh, man, I think that Justin is probably one of the luckiest dudes on the face of the earth in terms of who he partnered with, because she allowed it. You know, I'm sure life is much different for them now with kids, but back in those days, man, there was, I don't remember a time where Justin told us no. And there might be one of us, there might be 8 of us. The Iron Mike turns on, and he's just dotting it, right? You know, on the corners, up in the zone. I mean, the guy, he was a better version of an Iron Mike, which is an old school, you know, pitching machine. JU was like Iron Mike 2.0.
Pretty cool.
Well, I would say, yeah, I haven't gotten very emotional during much of this, because I tried to prepare myself for it. But I tell you, I am the luckiest guy in the world, and obviously, unbelievable support from Ann as a player, as a coach, as her being my wife. I mean, she is she's a great mother. She's a great wife.
Love it.
And she was a great partner during my journey. And so, again, we started dating in 04. Matter of fact, I met Ann at the Office Sports Bar, and she'd already graduated from UIS, and she was working she's working in the governor's mansion, and now she works for another state agency. But she was working for Tommy DeLello. We went to the office all the time. Yeah. And so she thought I was a little cocky, when I was in there or whatever. But we ended up going on a date and having a few dates before I left for that season in 2004. But nothing exclusive or anything like that. But I remember right before I left for that season in 2004, she just came to my house, my mom and dad's house, gave me a card, wanted to wish me luck and say, hey, have a great season. And we talked a little bit throughout that year, but not much. And as soon as I got home from that 2004 season, I called her, and the rest is history.
That's
I
cool.
mean, we just got together, and I'm glad he said that. Hopefully most of the players understood the commitment and the time away from family and friends. But so yeah, I mean, very, very cool of him to say that.
Yeah, Ann's a great lady. I've always enjoyed being around her, and that reminds me of a little Ann story that I want to share. This past year when you played in the Legends game, remember that? So for you guys that don't know, in Springfield there's like a Legends game that I think the Horseshoes put on, or
they just started doing it.
They're bringing back like former like Cardinals and Cubs guys, like Ray Langford was there, Justin was there, Kyle Farnsworth was there, some guys like that, right?
Yeah, we had Patterson, Rick Ankiel,
Corey Patterson,
Jason Mott came in.
Anyway, really, really, really cool. Anyway, so last year when this happened, I was stationed at Station 11. I'm a firefighter, and we did something called a rig review, where you take the fire truck to a neighborhood so the kids can like look at it and jump around and stuff. And you guys had like a block party or something, right?
Yep.
And I saw Ann there. You weren't there. Ann and your kids were there, and I was chatting with Ann, and she was like, "Oh yeah, Justin's playing in the Legends game tonight." And I was like, "Oh wow, that's really cool." And I was like, "Has he been like preparing for this or getting ready?" She was like, "Oh no, he hasn't swung a bat or anything or done anything like that. He's just going to show up and do it." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." And then I think I texted you the next morning, and I said, "How'd the game go?" And this guy sends me a clip. Doesn't say anything. Just sends me a clip. Hits a tank.
I did.
You kidding me?
I did. It was a fun experience, and I'm glad.
Hang him up after that, bud.
I know. So my what's crazy about that game is, so Jason and I, they told us to be at the ballpark. The game wasn't until like 6 or 7, but they told us to get to the park at like 3 or 4. And I'm like, well, I don't know why we need to get there that early, but we did. And they got us our jerseys, but there really wasn't anything to do. Jason and I went to the cage and threw each other about 10 balls, and we were exhausted afterward. and I think I hit like 3 off the handle, and I was like, oh man, this is not gonna be good. So Jason's first at bat in that game, he hits a ball into the left center field gap, and as he's rounding first, and this was off Kyle Farnsworth, as he's rounding first, he pulls his hamstring. And you could just tell he kind of limps up, but he's grunting through it, and he finishes the game. So then I get up there, and I hit like just a soft chopper to shortstop, and I'm like, well, I got to beat it out.
Yeah.
And it's like third step, my hamstring grabs on me, and the only thing I wanted to do was catch. I didn't even want to hit. And so I'm just like, maybe I'm not going to hit anymore. I'll just have somebody pinch hit for me or something, because I really don't want to run anymore. And so I actually had somebody come out and run the bases for me so I could go in and just get my gear back on. And so I ended up catching the whole game. Well, my next at bat, I come up and I hit a laser to left field. And it's just a base hit. And I pretty much walked to first base because my hamstring was, I couldn't even jog. It really hurt. And so, again, I waved somebody to come pinch run for me. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to do one more at bat. So I come up again, and I don't know if it was the third pitch of the at bat, and I just smash it.
You
and
did.
I'm like, I was like, oh, that might get out of here. Well, sure as heck, it hit the top of the wall.
Did it really?
It actually hit the very top of the wall and bounces over. And luckily my nephew and one other guy recorded it. And so you could kind of hear by the crowd, like they weren't sure when it hit the wall, like if it went over, if it went up. It was like, yeah. There was like a little pause in between. And so I'm like, well, I gotta jog. And so I literally took about 30 seconds to get all the way around the base. I was basically just light jogging, and every step just killed my hamstring.
Dude, I know we're like, this is like fun, but like your kids got to see you.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
It was, and
they never got to see you play.
It was very cool, yeah. And they never got. So there's a video clip of McKenna like saying, "Come on, Daddy," and she's cheering, and so
sweet.
That was cool. And I got a picture with her after the game, and so it was cool. And then they did it this year too, and they moved the game to Memorial Day weekend, and I was like, man, I'm not gonna play this year.
You can't ever hit again, can you? I mean, like, can you?
I really don't want to.
Why should you?
Yeah, I think I just go out on that one.
I'll come out and catch, but I'm done hitting.
Yeah, I would say all-time catcher or something.
Finish on a home run. I think Ted Williams did the same thing.
Yeah,
so
but no, right. it was very, very cool experience. I like what the Horseshoes are doing. It's kind of cool to see what they're trying to do in the community here.
I've got one more Aper clip. Aper on JU pouring into you.
It's funny. You hear stories about people, and there becomes this kind of like a mantra that surrounds them a little bit, and it could be somebody was so impressed in one short experience that they have with somebody that they just tell the story forever. But I was told that Justin was a hard worker. I was told he was a great guy, stand-up guy, cared about everybody. But then, to actually meet Justin and to play for him and watch how much he poured into every single guy that wanted something, wanted some advice or wanted to hit with him, or, anybody on the team that came around him, Justin was not shy to pour into you, man. I mean, if you wanted to get after it, Justin wanted to get after it with you, always. I mean, that guy was throwing 8,000, bullpen or batting practice fastballs, like 4 days a week, and was doing sets of like 50 push-ups in between every single hitter. Like, we'd pick up the ball, probably not every hitter. Every time we'd pick up the balls, Justin would drop down and just hit as many push-ups as he could.
Love it.
Yeah, you know what? When it comes to that, if the players were willing to work hard, I was gonna be there for them.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not gonna, just like most people. I'm gonna tell my kids, like, look, you want to go out and shoot hoops, let me know. I'll go out there with you. You want to go out and hit some balls or whatever, like, let me know. But I'm not going to ask you to go do these things.
Well said. Yeah.
These kids came to me, said, "Hey, can we go to the cage?" Yep, let's go.
Yeah,
you want to meet? You want to meet early? They all had my cell phone number.
Yeah.
It was kind of like an open door policy. Like, hey, here's my number. You guys call me if you need me. And, I've only got so many hours in the day, so if we have to partner up and team up, have multiple guys at once, we'll do it. But
love it.
The players that had the most success took advantage of it.
Man.
They really did.
I love that.
So,
and I've got a bowl clip here that I'm going to play on just on you coming back to coach and what that meant.
Yeah, obviously it meant a ton to us, and right when he got done, it was something that he wanted to get into, and we had an opportunity to make that happen, and did. I mean, obviously for all those young men that were coming through our program at that time, to have somebody that had played professionally and played at the highest possible level, to show that, hey, I started here just like you are, and to get that knowledge base of what he had learned through pro ball and the ways to get better and things to look out for. And, obviously when you talk about his help with Ryan Aper, just, navigating what getting drafted is like, and how those things are going to go along. So he just did an awesome job for us, and, it filled a huge need at the time. And, obviously hated to see him go. Totally understood, life has its ways of moving on, and, so he loves what he's doing now, but, obviously I can't thank him enough for all that he ever did for our program and for our kids. And, it was a great opportunity to have that happen. That's one of the things that if you kind of look back at the history of what we've done out of school, is it's almost always been, Lincoln Land people. And that's what that program has always been built on, from the opportunity that I was given. And so obviously when I get an opportunity to give those opportunities, I'd love to. And obviously Justin was a huge plus for us.